listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, John Cross.
All right. Hello and welcome to not exactly the After Movie Diner, more the After the End of the World Skype session. I don't know. What is it?
I guess it's like alongside movies not allowed in the diner.
Why are they not allowed in the diner?
We're not allowed in the diner.
Oh, we're not allowed in the diner.
We're not allowed in the diner.
I was going to say, we're not. We're not. I thought with the way you said the movies were not allowed, I thought you were indicating that we're going to be talking about movies that normally I wouldn't be allowing in the diner.
Right.
Like some kind of mad dictatorial bottom-faced goon.
Well, I mean, you know, if the cat fits, mate.
If the grotty Y-fronts fit.
Oh.
What's interesting is you're still eating. So my experience is still.
Well, why don't you do one of your lengthy intros?
Having to sit across from your.
It's like mostly you for 10 minutes, and then while I eat,
shoving food into the hole where normally.
Well, that's normally what we do, isn't it? Like we go to a diner. And you watch me eat. I
was trying to think. It's not the After Movie Diner. What is it? It's the After a Week of Quarantine Diner is what it is. It's the... And I think we should play up the fact that you were ill, even though it wasn't COVID-19. I feel like we should really play that up so that people feel...
Well, it might have been, right? They don't know for sure.
It could have been.
Vary
enormously. It could have been. It wasn't. But it could have been.
It might have been.
You were a bit snotty, weren't you?
I had a cough and a sore throat and I felt like shit. You know, like flu-y kind of whatever. Right. But it was probably just a cold.
Probably just a cold. My goodness, what is that? He's got a bowl of stuff that you're...
It's sesame chicken and pork fried rice.
Oh, my God. That's my go-to dish at a Chinese takeout is sesame chicken and pork fried rice. That's my go-to dish. It's another thing you and I have in common, that and both having faces like arses.
So that's two things.
Yeah. I've done a week working from home. And what I've been doing is I've been as creative as humanly possible in and around work stuff. And this is the first podcasting I've done, and it's apt that it should be you, Mon Brave. But we have got plenty of podcasts lined up. Basically, my thought is to do sort of a interview / top 5 / catch up and chinwag with sort of all the people who have been guests on the diner and all our movie pals, and kind of just put them out there. Not even like wait a week, just like put them up as I've recorded them, kind of thing.
Yeah, why not?
And keep people
need content, mate. People are bored.
Yeah, well, it was so funny. We were walking around the park today, Kim and I, because we went for a social distancing stroll.
I'm doing that every morning. I'm going for a social distancing stroll every morning. Yeah.
Whereas what it allowed me to do for the first time in history was all the thing that I've always wanted to do, which is when I see someone else coming the other way, I get to give them a look and like a wide berth, which makes me super happy because I get to go, ugh, another human, which is what I'm really thinking all the time. And I think that's the benefit of this quarantine, is that I essentially get to live the life I've been wanting to live.
You mean hate people? You mean hating people?
I get to avoid people at all costs.
Right.
I get
because I feel like I can't figure out if you're really, really happy being allowed to just be locked in a room with like a bunch of guitars and a computer with which you can communicate with people, or whether you're going slightly mad, because both things appear the same. You know what I mean? To the outside observer, it looks like you're having a whale of a time, but also you might be losing your mind.
No, I'm not at all. I feel very happy and comfortable. I was just saying to Kim today when we went out for our stroll, actually, that I almost wish, and I don't mean this in like I wish, more people ill. I just mean I almost wish that the outside was more apocalyptic, because at the moment, Brooklyn is sort of continuing the way it always has been. I mean, there's, obviously there's bars and restaurants are shut down and so on, but they wouldn't really normally be open during the day anyway. So like strolling around during the day, there are still people like walking their dog and going to the grocery store and driving to work or whatever they're doing. There's a lot of people like out and about doing stuff.
You're saying you'd prefer it if there were more like leather jacketed mutants fighting each other with knives and pipes.
And if buildings were sort of more crumbly, like no buildings are crumbling, you know what I mean? I want more crumbly.
Yeah, and like a dog would come out of a construction site and you'd stop and the dog would stop and you'd look at each other for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking more for sort of the half Mad Max, but half kind of, French impressionist ennui apocalypse where there's just a lot of like black and white building sites and three-legged dogs and like tumbleweed in the city kind of thing. Like just more
Brooklyn
kind of,
normally, isn't it?
No, sadly not. Like I wish Brooklyn was more like that, but sadly it's got its shit together and it's sort of depressingly normal. That being said, of course,
you can't live there, mate.
No. That being said, obviously, I do not wish anybody ill, and I do.
Perish the thought that we would trivialise.
No, not trivialising. Anyway.
Who would have thought tuning in to the After Movie Diner that you and I might make cheap apocalypse cracks?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I feel like I'm capitalising on it because what I'm essentially being like is, look how great we are, continuing to produce content while the world around us, Well,
I think you're fulfilling a very valuable need, mate. First of all, you're fulfilling the need of everybody near you that you don't go crazy and kill everyone.
Right.
Right? So that's the need.
Is that the assumption? The assumption is that any minute.
I'd say if all your guitars and your computers and your movies were taken away from you, I think you'd go mad in like 5 minutes.
Probably, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that. But also because people are genuinely bored. There's people who are working from home, people whose jobs have been paused or are not sure what's happening. And not just like, because there's a difference too between, watching Back to the Future for the 87th time and hearing like other people talking about the experience that you're going through as well. Like it's how you connect with people. Even at a time when you can't connect with people, it's very valuable, I think.
Yeah, and I have to, if we're going to be honest for 2 minutes, there's definitely, weirdly, one of the only sort of real frequent social interactions outside of Kim and I would be hanging out with you on a Thursday night,
right.
which I have missed.
Yeah, me too.
And there is something in my head, weirdly, even though... I was not a big fan of going into the office every day. And, Kim and I, it wasn't like we were out every night or whatever. Like most of our life has just been sort of Kim and I hanging out in the apartment and stuff, which is great. Although we did go out occasionally. There is something missing. It's weird, isn't it? Like, even though I don't relish going into the office and I have no particular hatred for the people I work with, but I don't have any particular like overwhelming love or need for them either. But in terms of like, companionship
company.
Company. And I don't mean that bad to them. I just mean that genuine. There is, even though I'm working and being in the apartment with Kim and Bacon is great, and I'm able to Skype with people and message with people, I'm able to create content and put out music videos and podcasts and things. Like all that's great. Like all that I'm kind of enjoying. There is this there's a weird emptiness to it. Because I guess I probably, whether I liked it or not, was just interacting and being part of humanity on a day-to-day basis a lot more than I have done for the last week. Just
I think
general,
also,
you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I think it's also because the way you and I choose to take or deal with, existence is often to take refuge. Do you know what I mean? So we'll go out into the world and we'll do the things that we need to do in order to be like, given money for sandwiches. And when it's over, when we've, done our allotted whatever, then we take refuge in either, good company or good movies or good mates or music or whatever. And so that's what the place that we do those things and experience those things become, right? Becomes a refuge from this thing. When that thing is no longer there, when it's just all refuge, when it's 100% refuge.
Too much bloody refuge.
Too much bloody refuge. Like, refuge from what is the fucking point here?
Right. I left literally refuge. Well, I have to say it's refuge from the, 24/7 news cycle about how everyone's dead is what it is. I get why the news is doing what it's doing, but I do kind of also wish that the updates were, by the way, there's X amount more tests available in Virginia, and then that's it, rather than these press conferences that seem to go on for 5 hours, and what they actually say is about 2 relevant, valuable things, and then, 101 garbage things that nobody needs to know about or nobody cares about. And it's just, I think that's a bit frustrating, is to glean the 2 bits of information you might need. You have to wade through the noise and, egos and madness of...
so just like news then?
Well, right. Except that on a day-to-day basis, I don't need to engage with the news. You know what I mean? Yes.
I know what you mean, but I'm not sure that... Yeah, and I guess I know what you're saying, because actually now we're in a place where we could find out tomorrow morning, like the mayor's shutting down, like this shelter-in-place thing, where we won't even be able to leave and go out for our walks or whatever outside of specified time. So there are things that could conceivably change. I'm not sure much more is going to change than what it is.
Oh, I don't know, dude. Kim and I were just saying this the other day, but basically, in a week's time, we could be Italy, right? Or in a week's time, we could be South Korea and kind of getting over it. We just don't, we literally just don't know. The good news is that with everything that China did, I think they've had 2 days now without any new cases, which sort of seems to... be a glimmer of hope. And I believe someone in Holland found an antibody that might be able to defeat this thing. But outside of that, we could literally in a week's time, like you say, be completely under lockdown. For the moment, the subways are still running, the buses are still running, the garbage is still being collected. If it wasn't for the fact that we're working at home and having the news on 24/7, it would be business more or less as usual for people like ourselves. The only thing that Kim and I can't do really is kind of go out to a bar if we feel a bit stir crazy, but we can go out for a walk, or we can, change up our routine and play some Scrabble or something or whatever. We can do something to change up the routine. So actually life is sort of ticking along pretty normally for people like us. And I understand that's a privileged situation. I know a lot of people are having to go to work in retail or garbage collection or hospitals or whatever who don't have
any jobs at all,
or don't have any jobs at all at the moment, right? Yeah. So I don't want to sit here and like I say, either trivialize things or make it out like
no one would expect us to trivialize anything, mate. They would expect serious, fact-based discussion. And
what I mean? No, I feel like...
two blokes down the pub go, well, I heard some bloke in Holland's got
an antibody.
It's all going to be over. China says it's going to be great. Oh, well, if China says it's going to be great, well, yeah, no problem then. Yeah, brilliant.
We do. It's all... Basically, I veer between... being that guy and trying to be very I read and I heard and this might happen and blah and possible and hope and da-da-da, to the other guy who's just we have a president who crossed out the word corona and wrote Chinese and has been intensely racist for no, but there's no need to do it. Even in the tweet, COVID-19 is less letters than the word Chinese. But he's still doing it just to be needlessly racist. So on the other hand, there is a guy inside me that's we're all doomed. You might as well do some fun ukulele songs for the kids, because I didn't get into this earlier when I was talking about being creative, but my friend Andrew Morris, who's been doing these really great videos where at his, I think it's a daycare center or a junior school or something like that, where he's been putting together these compilation videos for the kids. And he messaged me the other morning and he said, you wouldn't feel like doing a ukulele song for the kids that I could splice into one of these videos. And I was super flattered. and did one. And then I did Jollity Farm, which I had a lot of fun with. And then I just thought, oh my God, what a great idea. Like I could just do bonkers ukulele videos to put out there. And then all my friends who have kids, or all my friends who are, let's be fair, kids at heart,
can say, behave, or I'll play the ukulele video.
Right, they can use it as a form of beard and ukulele-based punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can use it as some sort of, please, mummy, not the bearded guy singing in his kitchen again.
I'll do anything. I'll sit here quietly for the next week if you promise not to play the ukulele again. Yeah, I can see it. No, I think you're doing a great job, mate. I think you're doing a fine, wonderful thing, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Everyone should follow Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures on Facebook and on YouTube. Just go to miscplumfix.com and all the links are there. But people should follow that because we're having a lot of fun. We've got
nobody can follow that, mate. Nobody can follow that.
Nobody can follow that. Misc Plum Fix. What's he going on about? Is he having a stroke?
No, I mean in the sense of the musical genius on show. Nobody could follow it. No, it can't be followed. It can only be admired.
Well, what was funny is
it can only beat you down to the knees. You're on your knees weeping with it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, one of the I don't know. This is just observation, but one of the reasons why I kind of waded into the podcast thing rather than the YouTube video thing way back when is the aforementioned face like an ass.
Right.
Face like a witch's ass, really, if we're honest, with the nose and everything as well. I don't know why a witch would have a nose on her ass.
Yeah, why would a witch have a nose on her ass?
I don't know, because she has an evil witch face, but then she also has like an even more evil witch bum. I don't know why.
Okay, fair enough. So sitting down is always painful, is what you're saying.
Right. Well, yeah. That's why they have specially formulated pants with extra buttock cushioning.
Right.
Or maybe extra thorns. Like maybe the whole point of being like an evil witch is to be in even more pain, so the pants have special thorns in them or something. I don't know.
So you're worried that they might become nice, and if they're going to continue to be evil, you've got to give them
reasons to be.
Pants-related reasons.
Definitely. Pants-related.
I'm glad you're not God. I mean, for many reasons. But that's definitely, I think, in the job interview, if you were to bust that one out as an idea, they'd go, no, listen, thanks for coming in, but we're probably going to go with someone else.
Yeah, someone else. Not witch ass faced goon.
Yeah, because you're going down the whole witch's ass rabbit hole thing, and honestly, we've got a deadline. We've got 6 days, right?
January
the 1st, 0. We're launching the whole thing. January the 1st, 6 a.m. 0.
Yeah,
the year 0.
The year 0.
That's 6 days
mate.
To get this together.
That's it, mate.
And you've spent the last week buggering around with noses.
And what's funny is the Bible's version of creation events is sort of replicated in every single project I've ever run at work. It's always like, this deadline is 7 days from now, and you're telling me today. Yeah, I'm telling you today. I've got 7 days to do what would normally take potentially a lifetime. Yes. You have 7 days, get it done. And hence, you end up with the world. You know what I mean? Like if they had taken longer to figure it out, but instead 7 days, boom, we got to go. We got to go.
The world is like a badly designed website. Yeah. Right. By a disinterested bum.
Are you saying that I produce badly designed websites?
I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying it's your responsibility. The badly designed websites can only be laid at your door.
True. But no, so the reason why they were is what blew my mind when YouTube like took off as a thing,
right,
and people started to do shows and stuff on YouTube, is how people out of nowhere suddenly had like title sequences and lighting and green screens and thing. Like it suddenly became, to do a YouTube video with any hope of heft and interest and legs and viral capabilities. It had to be produced up to the nines, and I just don't know like who has time. You know what I mean? Whereas with podcasting, I could just throw it together.
The amount of time you spend farting around, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I just mean like if you took all your farting time in 1 year, that would add up to whatever you would need to create, you know, in your head.
No, but
YouTube show.
But
I mean, I think it takes a bit more than a title sequence, but what do I?
No, exactly. But I felt that at least in audio land, I could do something that passed for
more slapdash.
No, I could do something that passed. I mean, I'm talking about the first 100 episodes, not the last 200, which have been shocking. The first 100 episodes.
The first 100 were, in your opinion, had a high production value?
Well, I did sketches and songs, and there was a theme song and stuff. Like now, it's just like theme song, boom, here's the diner, and then it cuts to two.
Back when you cared.
Yeah, now it cuts to just two miserable old bastards sat in a diner.
Well, you officially hit middle age.
Yeah, a lot of chewing and background noise.
When you could still find like a little bit of hope at the bottom of your shoe.
Yeah. But what's interesting, so that's why when I do stuff like the ukulele videos, and you can see it, like when I'm writing the descriptions of the videos and stuff, my insecurities just pouring out of me, because I'm like, don't expect it to be polished. Like, don't expect it to be anything other than some goon in a kitchen playing a ukulele. And if you like that, mate,
just like accurate descriptions,
right? Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure that like being accurate is necessarily being insecure.
No, but meaning that there are people who produce who right now probably are producing YouTube videos of them playing the ukulele or whatever, or playing a musical instrument or whatever, that has like multiple people in it and lights and camera movements and talent. Right.
and a ukulele that's in tune.
Yeah.
Bastard.
And I'm just saying,
to tune the ukulele and learn how to play it properly. You know what I mean? The fuckers.
And I'm just saying that with me, it's the intention and the heart is there, but the presentation is what it is.
I don't know that that's true, because I think if you really had intention and heart, you'd probably put more effort into it. I think what you're saying is the bare minimum will do, because what's the point of doing anything else? Don't get me wrong, I'm with you on that 100%. But I think pretending that the difference between you and, you know, internet stardom is like, well, if I spent some time, you know what I mean?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I could never do the thing that other people do on YouTube. All I can do is what I do, is all I was saying. I'm not looking for...
I think if you proved anything, mate, over the last few years, that you could do what you could do.
Yeah.
And no one can take that away from you.
Anyway, that was a rabbit hole from which no one will escape.
Yeah.
So the idea of this series was to be, I'm going to get people who I've podcasted.
I mean, it's already fucked.
Yeah, it's already fucked. I was going to get people who I've podcasted with before to come on the show, and we were going to do a top 5, and it was going to be either a top 5 movies that made me, or a top 5 particular genre, or a top 5 whatever subject you wanted to talk about. And we weren't necessarily going to review the movies as such as use the movies or the topic as sort of a springboard. So what was the list you wanted to do? What was your subject matter?
Like, I was going to be like top 5 movies to be, you know, to watch like over and over and over again. If you were stuck in quarantine with only 5 movies, what would those movies be?
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Should we do that first then? Let's do that first, then we can do questions at the end, because then people might actually listen to all this gubbins.
I was just thinking that, actually, we might, whoever asked questions would be like, well, better listen to the end, because I might have my name read out. And, you know, desperate times.
All right, so you've got 20 minutes, mate. Let's come up with this.
I've got a hard 20, so 4 minutes a thing.
Yeah, so what movie?
Just out of interest, I've got 4 minutes a movie. How long do we spend talking about ukuleles? Half an hour.
25 minutes.
25 minutes talking about your ukulele.
It wasn't just ukuleles; it was the whole thing. We talked.
It was mostly ukuleles.
We talked about the virus. We talked about. I didn't ask how you were doing because I don't really care.
All right then. All right.
How are you doing, mate? How are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I'm going slightly bonkers. Obviously, it's.
Are you going bonkers? Yeah. What are you doing? Because it's like one thing that I have like a room full of musical instruments and 15 million films.
Like a motherfucker. Like there's this whole thing that I'm working on. I'm working like
it's secret, folks. He can't say it. It's secret.
I could say it. I'm working for the streaming service that's launching in April.
The corporate giant.
And like all of a sudden now, you can't work there. It's like, oh, you bastard.
Cadbury's cream egg, ladies and gentlemen.
He's a bastard. But yes, it's very, very hardcore. And by the time the day's over, about 8 o'clock, my brain's completely fried.
You're working till 8 o'clock at night?
Yeah, pretty much.
When do you start?
A little before, like 9:45.
Bleeding Nora, that's awful.
Well, no, it's fine.
That's what happens when you suckle at the corporate teat, mate.
That's what happens when you get a job you like that succeeding at could mean, I have a career, which I didn't before. Before I was working in a dying industry with no hope of rescue. But no, I've been rescued now. So
and
I'm
you
not
would think...
Thank you very much for rescuing me. I don't work past 6, though. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no.
And you would think that after the 2 years of barren wasteland that I lived in, getting the job that is now my career, that I like, would, as it has for you, fuel some sort of fire of the future and possibilities and hard work and everything else, when really...
It's just an excuse for ukulele videos.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, other than that, I'm doing all right. I haven't really ventured into any... I haven't uncovered any TV show or... Like, I watched The Fugitive again because, like, that's a really good movie. But, you know what I mean? I feel like I should be, I don't know, uncovering... Like, I wanted to watch Beyond the Poseidon Adventure because I was like, well, I've seen the Poseidon Adventure, and Beyond the Poseidon Adventure is about, like, a bunch of people who go into a shipwrecked... the shipwrecked boat of the Poseidon boat and, like, dig around. And it had Michael Caine and Telly Savalas in it. Like, how could that not be good? It was not good.
Well,
like, there are definitely Michael Caine movies where you go, wow... did you? I mean, there's zero effort.
Yeah.
In fact, there's not even like no effort. He actively does not want to be there.
Yeah.
He's always like acting badly on purpose. I've never seen anything like it.
When John and I did the Caine versus Keaton stuff, although we didn't watch a ton of Caine, we watched enough that you could literally be like, oh, paycheck movie, not a paycheck movie. Paycheck movie, not a pay. Like, wants to be there, doesn't want to be there. It was sort of, it almost soured me to him because I have much more time for people who show up at the shoddy made-for-TV movie or shoddy B movie or whatever it is and still give it the beans. You know what I mean? Like a Christopher Lee or a Donald Pleasance or someone.
I know what you mean, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Caine... This is my theory. This is my theory.
This is my theory. What it is.
My theory. Yeah. I don't think that, because I was thinking about this when I was talking to Benj about Harrison Ford in The Fugitive, right? And how Harrison Ford's really good in The Fugitive, but he's not in a lot of later stuff. And like, why is that? And we were saying that it had something to do with the fact that the reason he's good in The Fugitive, the reason he's good in Witness, is that he has the kind of charisma that's better when it's like experiencing something for the first time. And either he's like Han Solo or Indiana Jones, where even though nothing like this has ever happened before, his strength is like playing it like it has. Like, oh yeah, this is Nazis chasing after me, you know what I mean? Like, easy, mate. Even though obviously that's never happened. Him dealing with that situation by being very casual about it is part of his charm. And then in Fugitive and Witness,
I don't think he does casual. I think he does panic well.
I know.
Harrison Ford does panic.
He's trying to be casual about it, and sometimes that gets scraped away and he's panicked. You know what I mean? He's trying to kind of surf on top of this like thing. And then for Fugitive and Witness, again, it's like something he's experiencing for the first time. His character's never lived that way or done those things. He's very good at that. But anytime they're asking him to be like, could you just be a leading man with charisma? That's all we need. Like, be a guy, be another thing, whatever. He's not very good. He comes across as being very dull and wooden. And I think Kane might be kind of similar in that when you need him to be like, just be a leading man, just show up and just be on camera and be a charismatic leading man. I don't think he can do that. Kane needs something, anything to get his teeth into to be any good at all. Otherwise, he looks like...
I would agree with you, except that Kane is literally on record of saying, I did that movie to buy my house a garage. Like, he's literally on record saying that.
Yeah, but that's also like, I know what you're saying, but that's also like a certain degree of ego protection because he was in a lot of shocking movies.
Right.
And he can't be like, no, I thought, that one where I was being chased after by a killer hand was brilliant.
But I do like the actors, and I think, Pleasance and Christopher Lee are two good British examples. And there are like even someone like Eric Roberts, who's not the most like broadly ranged person. He's been in so many things.
Yeah, but he literally has no choice. He's not like
no, I get it, but he shows
never slumming it.
But when he shows,
if he's in it, it's automatically like a slum. Do you know what I mean? He's slumming it. If he's in it, you've accurately gauged. But
what I mean is he shows up and gives it the Eric Roberts. It's not that he sits there. Nick Cage is the same. Like people are like, oh, Nick Cage is so wacky, but it's not. It's that he's using these B movies and straight to streaming movies to kind of try out some beans. And I'd rather that than the guy who shows up.
There's that one that I saw with him and Ron Perlman as the medieval knights transporting a possible witch across like a plague-ridden Europe.
Yeah.
And it was like nearly quite good. I mean, it suffered from obviously having no money and the people involved maybe not being like the most...
Is that the one where he's like, I'm the white dragon or whatever he says? He says like some mad line about being
I can't remember. All I remember is thinking there should have been more Nick Cage and Ron Perlman like buddying around as like knights in a plague-ridden, hellscape. Like, how's that not a good idea?
Right. Whereas, the other, like Cage and Cusack, of course, have a similar career trajectory, and have both been in Con Air and Netflix's Frozen Ground. But the difference being is that, and the reason why Cage keeps having these like mini resurgences is because Cage is still trying to do not necessarily interesting things, but just fucking weird and wonderful choices.
A particular brand.
Whereas Cusack is like, what straight to video film can I show up and be, craggy faced in, wearing a black t-shirt while not emoting enough to be able to
does stuff that it's about. You're getting like a look and a feel with Cusack, whereas you're getting like Cage, a particular brand of craziness. It doesn't matter how old he is or what the fuck he's doing with his hair or like how big his jowls are. It doesn't matter for anything. All that matters is he's giving it the Cage, and that translates. Doesn't matter what he looks like or what age he is. It's relevant in enough balmy movies. I'm
just saying that he doesn't let a budget or whatever inhibit him trying something out.
That's true. No.
That's where I came at it from, rather than going down another rabbit hole.
I'm not going to argue that. So all right. So on the top 5 then, I haven't made up my mind. I've got a couple of ideas.
So explain the top 5, because it's not top 5 movies about quarantine.
No,
it's the top 5 movies that if you were
locked in quarantine,
right,
and with an old VHS player,
and
you only allowed 5 VHS movies, what would they be?
Okay,
that's my thing.
All right, okay, so
in other words, things that you could watch over and over and over again,
right,
and never get bored. So I think I might, and I reserve the right to maybe change my mind because, as I said, I haven't really thought this through. But I think... Which
is always podcasting gold when Jim
I think I might put Without a Clue in there. I think. maybe. Talking of Kane.
Yeah, you see, funnily enough, both The Fugitive and Without a Clue are very good examples of this for me. They're both really good examples.
I wouldn't put The Fugitive in, but it is the kind of movie that would work. Because I was thinking about that. Because I did really, but it had been a while since I've seen it, and it does stand up really, really well. It is still really, really good. And actually, watching it again, even though it's like, oh yeah, Tommy Lee Jones is really great, and Tommy Lee Jones is really great, but Ford totally makes that movie. Without him, it doesn't fly at all.
And that's why, I mean, like, what I love about him in that and the Indiana Jones series, and why, you know, first of all, I was never, and I don't want to go down this hole either, but I was never particularly a Star Wars guy. And while I appreciate him as Han Solo, I don't like it as much as Indy. And the reason why I don't like it as much as Indy is because the thing that I think Ford does the best is looking worried and looking panicked and not having the answer to everything, but communicating to the audience that even though he doesn't have the answer for everything, he's probably going to get out of this, even though he's, you know, panicked or flustered by whatever's going on.
So you have one of the Indiana Jones movies then?
If I had to pick an Indiana Jones movie,
Raiders of the Lost Ark is a good fucking call.
You see, if I had
Crusade.
If I had to pick an Indiana Jones film that I could watch over and over and over again, it would be Last Crusade, because him and Connery bumbling about is absolutely my favorite.
The only reason, right? Because don't get me wrong, I flipping love Connery and Ford in that movie, and they are great. The only thing is, I feel like Raiders of the Lost Ark is a bit more of an organic movie. I think that it feels a bit bigger. It feels a bit more like because when you watch Last Crusade again with a critical eye, you do realise that they are just replaying like all the bits that were good about Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I don't mind at all. Like it's a fantastic movie, and I get what you're saying. I just wonder whether if I had to watch it over and over again, I'm not sure that Raiders of the Lost Ark isn't a slightly richer experience.
Right. So here's the thing, right? So Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'm talking like double act charisma stuff that's going to keep me engaged, because if we're watching this more than 3 or 4 times in a row, it's not about the plot anymore, right? And it's not even about necessarily, can I pick out a particular camera move or some mechanical thing that Spielberg is doing or some kind of artistic thing that Spielberg is doing? Because to be honest, you'd be hard-pressed between those 3 original movies to find any particular weaknesses when it comes to the way that Spielberg's filming. They all look, the richness you're talking about and the kind of caper aspect and the pacing is kept up throughout. I think that what you're talking about between Raiders and Last Crusade for me is, do I want to watch Ford and Karen Allen, or do I want to watch Ford and Connery? And I absolutely love Karen Allen. I think she's
that's fair.
But I think she's by far the best woman in that series. And yet, does she quite stand up to the banter and the
it's
fun?
A bit more of a romantic comedy rather than a buddy comedy. So I'm with you on that. Like the female lead in Last Crusade is only there to exacerbate the buddy aspect of it, that they're both after the same girl kind of a thing, rather than a particular character. So okay, that's fine. And I do really like the R. Venice repeated joke. Okay, all right, yeah. And again, I'm not. So maybe Last Crusade Without a Clue. Now, definitely
also the other thing on Last Crusade is what I like about Last Crusade is, in a weird way, it feels more like a Bond movie, because they're not really in the same place all the time. They're kind of
there, you see, there's got to be a Bond movie, right? It has to be a Bond movie. But which one?
It's between Live and Let Die or License to Kill. They're the 2 that I can watch over and over and over again.
I don't know. I know what you're saying. I think I'd have to go with. I think if I had to go with one, I'd probably go with For Your Eyes Only. I think.
Okay. I would, weirdly enough, as much as a Bond fan I am, if I only have 5, they're probably, if I only have 5 and Last Crusade is tentatively on the list, I probably don't pick a Bond movie, because Last Crusade is sort of my, you know, it's kind of like a Bond movie enough. You know, I'm thinking
I see that.
Like the fighting in Venice on the boats with the knights, and then the racing through Germany and all that, like all just basically like a lot of the set pieces feel very Bondy to me and feel almost better, certainly in that era, than what Bond was doing.
Probably, if I'm honest, I think the Bourne Identity gets in there into my top 5, probably.
Not for me. You see, the hard thing for me is if there are 3 films, if someone just comes to me and goes like, or 4 films, right, what are the 4 films you can like watch over and over again, or what are your favorite films, or whatever. My traditional answer is Apocalypse Now and Taxi Driver, which I literally can, no matter their subject matter, watch time and time and time and time and time again. Evil Dead 2, and then I would also throw The Last Waltz in there, because I would feel like I'd need some music. I'm assuming that in this quarantine, all I have is an old VHS player.
Yeah, okay.
And I also consider The Last Waltz to be the best, if not one of the best, if not the best, filmed live music events of all time. And I love the interview stuff, and I love just the whole feel of it. But to be honest with you, I don't know if 40-year-old Crossy is going to be sat down watching Apocalypse Now, Taxi Driver, Evil Dead 2, and Last Waltz quite in the same way that I might have been 10 years ago. I think, weirdly enough, Apocalypse Now would be still on there. And I'm also, it's weird because 3 of the films that might be on my list are pretty long, and I think that's probably a good idea if I'm stuck in quarantine. And that would be Apocalypse Now, Zodiac, and Shawshank Redemption. All of which are like,
is a good call. Yeah.
But again,
Redemption is a good call too, because you're also stuck in quarantine, and like the idea that you might be able to get out is like, that's nice. Ooh, Shawshank Redemption is a good call. Oh, well, okay. But I'm definitely going to... I think I'm going to put...
Also, JFK. JFK would be a great one as well. Like, that would be 4 long ones.
I know what you mean about length, right? I do. I honestly do. But I do think you've got something about... You don't just want, like, the same movie, right? So that's why, hence, I probably wouldn't have Bourne Identity, Last Crusade, and a Bond film. So I think I go with Bourne Identity because I flipping love that movie so much, and I could watch that. It's one of those movies where as soon as it's over, I just want to watch it again, and that's why I like the sequels. And even though the sequels are probably slightly better movies, the Bourne Identity on its own is a beat. So I'm going with the Bourne Identity. I'm also going to go with Zero Effect. I think because I could just watch Zero Effect. I've watched Zero Effect about 300 times, and every time I see it, I enjoy it exactly as much as I did the last time I watched it.
But boiling it down to 5 is really the hard.
So I'm definitely
thing.
Zero Effect and Bourne Identity. You are going to want a comedy in there, which is why I was thinking Without a Clue. But
see, for me, comedy, weirdly enough, would either be Meaning of Life or Brain Candy. Meaning of Life, because
Meaning of Life is a good shout.
Well, because
Meaning of Life is a good shout.
Because the sketch format of Meaning of a Life allows you to kind of go, well, I'm in the mood for the birth thing today, but I'm not in the mood for Mr. Creosote today. So I can watch the birth thing, and then I can like go away and come back to Meaning of Life again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a good shout.
But Brain Candy, I also can watch over and over and over again. Brain
Candy is very good because it is
adore Brain Candy.
It's kind of like sketchy, but also does have like that through line, and it is. And I feel like there's lots of things to discover in there too. It probably would take me a long time to spot every joke, and like even like background stuff, and I don't know, like little expressions and things might make me laugh differently every time.
So definitely on my list. I've got one definite so far.
Okay,
definite on my list. The Burbs. definitely, hands down, The Burbs. Could watch The Burbs a bazillion times. Okay. Hands down, The Burbs is on my list. That's definitely on my list.
I might have to put. I'm not going to have a space one in there. So probably it has to be. I mean, it has to be Wrath of Khan, right?
Yes. Oh my God, that's a great call. Wrath of Khan. Yes.
Is it Wrath of Khan or is it Undiscovered? Because even though, don't get me wrong, I love Wrath of Khan.
It's Wrath of Khan. It's Wrath of Khan.
Undiscovered Country, though.
No, it's Wrath of Khan. I'll tell you why. It's not for the bit that everyone thinks. It's not. It's the Kirk's entrance in Wrath of Khan when he comes in backlit. And then he doesn't even put emphasis on it. It's just the sheer Shatner of him just going lights and then him being revealed every single time. I think that is the coolest fucking thing. I think I might
go with Undiscovered Country.
No, you're wrong. Wrath of Khan.
No, because I feel like, even though, don't get me wrong, Wrath of Khan is like a really great, tight, adventure. You've got like Kirk versus Khan. That's what's going on, right? And it's flipping brilliant. But Undiscovered Country is like 3 or 4 different movies. You've got space battles. You've got like a murder mystery. You've got a prison break. You've got like comedy fucking bits in it. Like there's loads. It feels like Undiscovered Country is all the bits about Star Trek that I love in one movie. It's got everything. So right. I think Undiscovered Country. Undiscovered Country.
Because now I'm thinking about it, and you're right.
I've got 3. Three.
With Undiscovered Country. Oh.
You know what I mean? There's more stories in there. Even though the best Star Trek story ever told is the Wrath of Khan, but there are like 4 or 5 great Star Trek
except
stories.
That weirdly, okay, but here's my thing.
Okay.
Wrath of Khan is too hammier than gammon hams trying their damned hardest to be as cool and as calculated and as honest as they can be, while still letting plenty of ham slip out from around the edges. However, Undiscovered Country, from start to fucking finish, they are flinging ham about the edge.
I know, but that's why I like it.
You're right.
Nobody watches Star Trek for like the nuanced performances. I agree with you about Khan. That's why it's a great flipping movie. Is I feel like they are, both him and Montalban are a little bit, not holding back exactly, but there's a feeling of like control, right? Which is really, in trying to keep control of themselves and the situation. But yeah, so, all right, Undiscovered Country, Zero Effect, and Born Identity. So that leaves 2. I don't have a comedy in that. I
have The Burbs. And I have The Burbs and Wrath of Khan. That's what I have so far. Burbs and Wrath of Khan.
I might go with Brain Candy, only because I don't have a horror film either. I feel like I should have a comedy and I should have a horror. I've got an action, a space film, a murder.
Do you want a horror though? If you're in quarantine, I mean, maybe you want a horror. I don't know. Like, do you want to? Tonight I'm really in the mood to just sit here and be like wigged out.
No. I mean, like a Hammer or.
Right. No, I get it. I understand.
I don't know, but for comedy, I might go with Brain Candy only because, like the most uncomplicatedly happy I've ever been was those last 2 years at university. And that's when we used to watch Brain Candy over and over and over again. And because it's got so much in it, and it brings back a lot of very happy memories. So I might go with Brain Candy. But over Without a Clue though. Without a Clue is kind of Zero Effect, really. It's Zero Effect or Without a Clue. They're both like comic detective stories. I think I have to go with Zero Effect. So I think maybe Brain Candy. Fuck. So what's my last movie then?
I don't know. So what do I have? I have The Burbs and Wrath of Khan.
Last Crusade? Are you going to stick with Last Crusade?
I don't know if I could Last Crusade. I kind of love Last Crusade.
Should have mailed it to the Marx Brothers.
I mean, good.
So much going on.
So good. It's so good.
And that's arguably like 3 or 4 movies in one as well. There's like
It's really hard, this, though, because, obviously...
It's the last waltz.
Obviously, I'd want a Farley movie in there, and I'd want a Dola movie in there. But no offense to either Farley or Dola, I don't know that that's top 5 watch over and over and over again movies if I'm in quarantine kind of thing.
I can hear and feel Farley like sputtering in justifiable horror at what you've just said.
No, true. I mean, listen, I could watch River Beast over and over again.
I could watch River Beast over and over again. Is that my horror? The Third Man? Do I want the Third Man in there? That's kind of Zero Effect, and that's kind of like a...
So here we go. I got The Burbs.
Yeah.
I have Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to Farley and Charlie, who I love dearly, and if I had 10, would definitely be on the list. But I'm instead going to go for... So I have one of my favorite indie movies of all time. I'm going to go for Don Dola's Blood Massacre as my horror.
Okay.
What are my other two? I've got a comedy horror in The Burbs. I've got a horror. I've got an adventure space film. It's really difficult. I don't have a Carpenter in there. Fuck, I need a Carpenter.
Oh, fuck. I saw it in Precinct 13. Maybe. Oh, maybe I saw it in Precinct 13. But it's a bit...
Oh, you know the other movie I could watch over and over and over again? Tombstone. What? Fucking Tombstone is so good. Tombstone is so
yeah, Tombstone could make it. Tombstone could do you. There's nothing wrong with Tombstone.
Yeah, I know.
You can have Tombstone.
I feel like I could put like Spirited Away in there or something, like one of those crazy Japanese movies where I feel like I don't even know what I saw, but I loved it. And there'd be so much to unpack and understand. Weirdly, although I think it would be a deeply odd one to watch repeatedly in quarantine, if I wanted my... Because this is the way, if you're going to have a Carpenter, you probably should have a Carpenter Russell. So then you're thinking, well, what Carpenter Russell would I have? And while Big Trouble in Little China seems like the obvious choice because it's more fun and knockabout, the one that I deeply, deeply, deeply love and could probably watch a billion times is The Thing. I just don't know whether I'd want to watch The Thing over and over again if I was quarantined.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be great for your mental health, would it?
Like I kind of wish Carpenter...
Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2 particularly.
Yeah, I kind of wish that Carpenter had directed Tombstone because that would be the perfect movie. I don't have a Weller in there either.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
I think the Weller has to be Shakedown. Has to be.
I mean, I'd probably go with Screamers, but...
Over Buckaroo Banzai. I know everyone's like, but what about Buckaroo Banzai? I'm like, I don't know. Shakedown, Shakedown has more of him, like, bebopping all over the place. Weirdly, Buckaroo Banzai, as much as I love it, first of all, doesn't have as much Weller as it should have. Like, there's vast sections of it where Weller's not really around. John Lithgow, while he's really, really great in the movie and mad as beans, to me, detracts from the Weller. Like, I just want more Weller. And thirdly, he's sort of weirdly earnest in Buckaroo Banzai. I want Shakedown because he's putting the law on trial and bebopping and scribbly doing all over that shot, which is really what you want. And he's good in Screamers as well, but like Screamers is great. I love Screamers, but to me,
I don't think I can have Undiscovered Country and Screamers, so I think it has to be Undiscovered Country. It has to be Undiscovered Country and Zero Effect and The Bourne Identity. So what does that leave me? I think I have to have something that makes me laugh. I have to have something that makes me laugh.
So wait a minute. So I'm saying I have The Burbs, Wrath of Khan, Blood Massacre, Tombstone, and Shakedown.
I mean, that's pretty good.
It is pretty good, but I feel like I'm missing... Like, I love Apocalypse Now, and I love Shawshank Redemption, and I love Zodiac. They're movies that I can put on and, like, get absorbed in them, and I don't care if they're 3 hours long. I can just sit and watch them and let them wash over me. Fuck. It's so difficult because then I don't have a Statham, I don't have a Pam Grier. It's weird. A lot of the movies that I could watch over and over again do not necessarily star the staples people expect from me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a Pam Grier, I don't have a Bruce Campbell, I don't have a Jason Statham. You know, I don't have a Terry Gilliam film on my list. I don't have a John Carpenter film on my list. It's a top 5 is really difficult. That's the other Weller, RoboCop. But again, it's not jazz enough. I need Jazz Weller.
It doesn't really bebop enough as RoboCop. That would have been a very different movie.
He should have bebopped all over that giant. And I don't have a Donald Pleasance. Fuck. I need a Donald Pleasance.
You've got to have like a Halloween or something, so you can get Carpenter and Pleasance in there.
Well, my favourite Pleasance is for Pleasance being Pleasance is Raw Meat, but I don't necessarily want to watch the rest of the movie around him. I just want to watch that detective in Raw Meat making cups of tea and shouting at people. And that's often the problem. Like, I love Pam Grier and you know, I've watched Coffee, Foxy Brown and those movies a lot, but I don't know that I want to kind of, you know, watch Foxy Brown over and over and over again. It's relentlessly grim in places, and you don't necessarily want to be bombarded with that all the time.
I might, even though it's not as like, I'm thinking about comedies now, even though it's not as hip and, or rather it's a bit passé, this movie now, but I'm thinking about it. And I'm thinking about a movie that makes me laugh consistently, a movie that I can watch over and over again, that is an absolute classic. I think for my comedy, I probably have to put Ghostbusters, I think.
That's a good one.
I never get bored of that film. Every time anybody says anything funny in that movie, it's as funny every single time I see the joke. It's so perfect. And it works as a movie. Like, I'm taken along on a journey. I feel like a part of the crew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so here's the other thing.
So Ghostbusters is in there.
Fucking
Ghostbusters. So that's 4. I've got 4.
I could go all ensembles as well. Because, like, the one, you know, because everyone's like, well, yeah, you know, what about, like, The Godfather? Or what about Taxi Driver? Or what about, like, some classic like that? But I venture Copland, because it has this, like, nice pulpy plot. It's got character actors aplenty chewing scenery left, right, and centre. You've got coked up Ray Liotta coming at you in like stereo. You've got the mustachioed De Niro being like, "You blew it," which is amazing. You've got Stallone giving the performance of his career. You've got a good, like, twisty-turny plot.
What you needed, like, early Statham to be in Copland somehow, like, for them to have, like, cast Statham weirdly.
Right, because one of the things I was thinking is, like, do I want the Expendables? Because that would get all my, like, machismo action guys out the way. But
I know about the movies, by the way. But
I would watch Copland over and over and over and over again, I think.
Do you want to hear my 5th movie then? Because I thought about what you said, and I think it's very valuable, the idea of if you've only got 5 VHSs, then you're going to need music. So I think, and you've got to be able to watch it over and over again, and you've got to be able to hear the music over and over again, never get bored. So I think, and because, like, something different visually, Yellow Submarine.
Okay, that works.
So my 5 are, for sure, in order of, like, deciding, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, Zero Effect, The Bourne Identity, Ghostbusters, and Yellow Submarine. Those are my 5. Okay. I'm happy with those 5.
And I'm going to have The Burbs.
Okay.
The Burbs. What was my second one?
Can't fucking remember. Did you go with Last Crusade? You didn't go with Last Crusade.
No, Wrath of Khan. Sorry, The Burbs, Wrath of Khan.
Copland? You're really going to go with Copland?
I do love Copland.
I know, but really? Above Apocalypse Now and Taxi Driver, you're going with Copland? I mean, how much more ensemble than Apocalypse Now can you get?
I do love Pete. Well, there isn't a big ensemble in Apocalypse. Who's the big ensemble?
Duval, Sheen, Fishburne.
No, I mean, Fishburne and Sheen are throughout the film, but like Duval is a cameo, Ford is a cameo, Brando is a cameo.
I'm just saying, if you're talking about like fucking amazing performances all over the shop, people push themselves to the brink of sanity in the name of acting, like Apocalypse.
No. I'd rather JFK in that. I don't know.
All right, well, JFK works.
No. Shut up. I'm having the Burbs.
Okay.
I'm having the Burbs.
Yeah.
I'm having Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
I'm having Copland.
Jesus. Okay.
I'm having The Last Waltz.
Okay.
And I'm having Blood Massacre.
You're gonna put. I get all of them, but really, Copland above Taxi Driver, JFK, Zodiac, Copland. I like Copland, but really?
You're right. It's the odd one out, but
it's fine. But listen, mate. I mean, I've got some like minor either kind of like a bit.
No, I got it. Fuck.
Mine are a bit blah, but I don't care because they're the ones that I would watch. They are, I think, refreshingly, and I'm not saying yours aren't, but like I was expecting me to be more pretentious than I have been. I've actually picked, I think, some quite unpretentious choices because I think genuinely those 5 movies I would watch over and over again, never get bored.
I'm throwing out a bunch. I'm going. The Burbs is definitely on there.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wrath of Khan, definitely on there.
Last Waltz, I feel like you probably want on there,
Last Waltz, definitely on there.
Okay, so you got 2. You got 2 to play with.
The last 2 spots go to The Thing.
Okay.
Because, fuck it, I would watch that.
Russell. You've got to have Russell and you've got to have Carpenter.
I would watch that over and over again. The Thing.
And you've got Ensemble, so yeah.
Yeah. And Shakedown. Fine. Oh, sorry, Shakedown. That's the 5.
So the 5 are Wrath of Khan, Shakedown,
The
Last
Burbs.
Waltz.
The Burbs.
Burbs. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you've got it all covered there. Because your Burbs is my Ghostbusters, I feel.
Yeah.
Right? And what's your Shakedown, I guess, is probably my Bourne Identity, I suppose. Like a bit of an action kind of a kick. And then I've got Yellow Submarine, you've got Last Waltz. And then what else did I have?
But then instead of Shakedown, I hate to throw Shakedown under the bus.
Oh, you're going to throw Shakedown under the bus?
I don't know, because I need a bebop Weller. I need a bebop Weller.
Bebop Weller.
I need
New York. You've got to have a New York movie.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. No, that's it.
New York, you're getting Weller, you're getting Glickenhaus. It's all that. You're getting 80s action, all the things you love in one movie.
And if I have a 6th and a 7th...
No, you can't.
No, but if I have, it's Blood Massacre and River Beast. That's the 6th and 7th.
All right. Well, I'm trying to remember what mine. So, Bourne Identity, Zero Effect, Ghostbusters, Yellow Submarine, and Star Trek 6.
Yeah.
Those are my 5. Oh, I think we did pretty. See, wasn't that better? Me not arriving with the list, and we could figure it out together.
Sure.
It may not be great listening experience, but I enjoyed talking about it with you.
Well, it's really difficult because I basically. What's funny is that when it comes to like listing movies, I always go with my favorite films rather than like the best films. I think a lot of the time when you see these lists, a lot of people are like, right, but I want to make sure that the films I'm picking or the things that I'm listing or whatever have some kind of like artistic merit or whatever. That's
why I like my list. It feels refreshingly unpretentious to me.
I think that
devoid of that, it feels very functional.
And like so a lot of the ones that I was going off was I have a list on Letterboxd that I threw together really just off the top of my head of my favorite films of all time. And there's like 3 pages of them. There's like hundreds of them. But and I was going through them. And as I was going through them, like I was looking at and being like, actually, most of these movies are just entertaining. Sure, there are ones in there that people would consider, classics like Night of the Living Dead or Apocalypse Now or Amadeus or whatever, ones that have been, or Fitzcarraldo, that have been like critically acclaimed. But there's also stuff like, Fright Night and
Fright Night
and They Live and Razorback and Split Second and things like that.
Fright Night,
where you're like, no one. No, I don't think anyone, if they're doing like my favorite films of all time, are putting fucking, Split Second and Cobra and shit on there. But they're on mine because I could, like, there's 100 movies I could watch over and over again, and it's this list.
I mean, Fright Night is now. I mean, if it's Fright Night or Ghostbusters, and I think probably Ghostbusters. And Fright Night Part 2.
No, gotta go Fright Night Part 1. Chris Sarandon in a V-neck sweater.
Yeah, but Fright Night Part 2.
I love that's my call out. My call out is like Chris Sarandon in a V-neck sweater. Come on.
Welcome to Fright Night, for real. No, it's a cracking movie. But Fright Night Part 2 is a bit bigger. It's got some really great lines in it. It's got the crazy guy with the massive jaw who eats the bugs. You're supposed to bite her on the neck. It's got... And I really like the switch. No, Ghostbusters. I'm happy. So let's answer questions then. Let's answer questions.
All right, over to questions. By the way, Screamers is in that list as well, but it's not as bebopping.
No.
As Shakedown.
Wake up, man. We are beached.
But it's not like him just, I will casually have an affair with the opposition council while putting the law on trial and, writing a... I mean, listen, if you say to me, do you want to watch a movie in which Sam Elliott and Peter Weller ride a motorbike and sidecar down 42nd Street, my answer every time is yeah.
No, I think your 5 movies are a good shout. And I think it's interesting that you can draw like lines between what you've chosen and what I've chosen. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. Well, because I don't think, I can get a strokey chinned as the next person, but I don't think my movie taste has ever been particularly like earnest. My movie taste has always been, that entertained me or that amused me or that, got the hair. My big thing is always like the fist pump moment. Well, arty movies don't tend to have fist pump moments, but when I can watch Wrath of Khan tomorrow, and the bit where he goes, I don't believe in the no-win scenario, and flips open his communicator, and he's like, Spock, are we ready? Every time it does, just telling you that now is making the hairs go on the back of my neck. Like, I'm just excited by that, even though I've seen it 100 times, even though I know they're not really trapped in the Genesis Project. There's just something about Shatner in that movie that, for all the criticisms against Shatner, I will always go, but I'm sorry, Wrath of Khan. Like, there's no getting around that he made, hands down, one of the greatest films of all time. And it's never, to my knowledge, been on any critic or film magazine's top 5 movies of all time, but it's top 5 movies of all time. It's impeccably written, impeccably paced, and just barrels along and balls of fun. And Shatner Montalban, it's incredible, and that's it excites me. Like, I get excited just talking about it. Like, it's very cool. All right, okay, over to Twitter first, where I believe Dr. Fuzz. First question for us on Twitter, sir.
Okay.
We're at After Movie Diner on Twitter, and you are at J__E_A__Y.
J_pause J_E_. No, that's terrible.
It's awful. Just look up After Movie Diner. And
J.E.A. Wallace with underscores.
Yeah. Anyway, for you and Jim, if you had to torture a mortal enemy by forcing
I like this question. This is a good question.
Yeah, by forcing them to watch a film on an indefinite loop, what would it be? And then he says, maybe refine it that Jim chooses one to punish me and vice versa. You need to know your enemy for it to be effective. I'm less interested in the second part of the question. Because
I'm quite interested in the second part of the question because I do think that it's knowing what would drive you the most peculiar. So I guess...
But I don't want to throw bad movies at each other because I don't really want you to have to sit through a bad movie.
Fair enough.
For all our jokey bickering, There's nothing I dislike about you.
All right. Then what would I make? So,
but the idea of
I had a mortal enemy. I don't know, because maybe for a mortal enemy, you'd want them to sit through something good in the hope that they'd stop being such a bastard.
No, this would be an infinite loop, so it would never stop. It would be like water torture or whatever.
I know. Irreversible, the French movie.
Really? Go just because of the horrible nature of it.
It's just horrible. Like there's bits of it you can't watch,
right?
But it's also deeply troubling. You know what I mean? It like rips out any hope that humanity is worth anything. Like it properly plunges you into an existential crisis that if you're lucky, you will bounce back from. So yeah, I'd say
what you're saying is
there's a chance, A, that you are, I mean, first of all, you are torturing them, but B, they might be better afterwards.
So you're saying that I should strap Piers Morgan down to a chair, pry his eyes open with matchsticks and force him to watch a Serbian film, is what you're saying?
I know. I haven't seen that, so I don't know.
I've never seen it, but I'm aware abundantly of what's in it, and it is some of the most disturbingly horrendous shit.
But I think what I like about Irreversible is it is genuinely a good movie, and it's got a cool structure, and it is designed to make you feel like horrifyingly empty at how bleak the human condition is, while at the same time also containing incredibly troubling scenes that are almost impossible to watch. What's
a movie that's got me like really like that fucking movie with Schwarzenegger and the zombie girl that was just abysmal? I'm trying to think of movies that made me angry.
Well, yeah, because I was thinking that. I was thinking like Baby Driver and fucking what's that?
Oh, Scott Pilgrim is another one. Edgar Wright went from being like one of my favorite directors of the Cornetto trilogy to like my least.
Edgar Wright is a great director and a lousy writer. If he's left to his own devices,
maybe
he just strings together things that don't have any meaning. If he's not hemmed in by other people who are as important to the creative process as him, he's no good at all.
By the way, The World's End was on my short list of top 5 because I could watch The World's End over and over again.
That's good. That's a good call.
I consider that to be
I can watch Hot Fuzz over and over and over again.
I consider The World's End to be the pinnacle of Pegg and Wright. I don't think either of them will ever get as good again in either of their chosen fields.
I mean, really, what I would want is to string all 12 episodes of Space together. That's what I would like.
But no, so movies to punish. I like your idea of showing someone something unrelentlessly bleak, rather than just showing them, I don't know, Britney Spears in Crossroads or something, which would just be torturing them with just infantile pap. What's that Adam Sandler movie where he has Al Pacino rapping about Dunkin' Donuts? I feel like if you had to watch that over and over again, Jack and Jill, I think it is.
But I just think like what would happen is, my point is that the trouble with crap like that is that eventually, like, you would adapt in order to enjoy it, and if you did that, you would end up being a moron. So you would end up making them worse. But the only way to adapt and survive like a really bleak movie is to become a better person. You know what I mean?
Or to become a sicko. Or to become a sicko.
Well, no, because there's nothing in, say, Irreversible that's like the only way to cope with that movie is to become a better person.
No, I've picked it. It's the movie adaptation of On the Buses from the 70s. That's just my comical answer. All right, let's move on to the next question.
Okay.
I think Irreversibles are pretty great. Irreversible or the Serbian film, if you want to just like make their eyeballs scream, I guess.
Yeah.
Or like I Spit on Your Grave, or one of those just like relentlessly disgusting and abusive films. Fiendish Fitz, Mike Fitzgerald, who is a mensch, as they say, shares all of the things, shares the music, shares the podcast, is very active on social, and is a damn mensch and a half. He asks, I know I brought this up before on the Facebook group, but how much should a poor performance be attributed to the actor rather than the director who either instructed the performance or accepted the performance? So it's interesting because we were talking about Kane earlier and the choices he makes sometimes to be bad in films. In the case of this question, because you've got actor versus director, very often where you see good actors like Kane giving really bad performances is because his ego or his star power outweighs the director he's working for. You know what I mean? It's rare that you see a really well-directed film from a classic film director where everybody in the cast is being amazing except one person. Like that's rarer to me than a scenario where maybe a first time or a second time or even a less star power director directs an actor who just can't be fucked and ends up walking all over the place. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think if it's a bad performance, it's usually. I mean, sometimes I think it probably is true that a director might send someone in the wrong way. But I feel like with the case of Knives Out, for example, I feel like if Rian Johnson was a bigger director, he might not have let Craig do what he did. But I'm not sure.
Right. The other thing I was just thinking is, of course, a director has many jobs to do on a set. An actor only has one. So if it's coming down to lay the blame at someone's feet,
I go along with that.
An actor only has to focus on something, and also the politics involved in being a director and talking to an actor is a multitude. You know, my way of thinking, an actor should. It's one of the things that whenever I hear people banging on about Marlon Brando, I'm like, yeah, okay, there's a couple of films you could spit and hit and say that he's good in, but ultimately the fact that he would show up on set hours late, having not learned his lines, have to read it off cue cards, would be like massively overweight, would refuse to do the accent he needed to do, would show up without trousers, would bring mad people onto set who would cause disturbances, derail whole films, get directors fired, make films go over budget. All of that, to me, I don't care how good an actor you are, fire that person and never have them in anything ever again. Because to my way of thinking, the older I get, especially as well, the less, it's a bit like Farley's thing and demystifying the whole tortured artist thing. The more respect I have for the actors like a Sadler, like a William Sadler or whatever, or like a Peter Weller, who show up on fucking time, hit their marks, know their fucking lines, get on with the people they have to get on around. Don't play this game of, I need a bigger trailer and I need more time for, waxing my nipples or whatever. They just get on with it and they do the job. So I feel like if there is a particularly bad performance, I think it's rarer that it's the director's fault, because often it comes down to a director's inexperience, right? A director who's only made a few films is not going to walk up to Michael Caine and be like, I think you should do it like this, because then Caine is going to be like, well, if that's what you think, fuck you, I'm off to the trailer. He'll just make some big ego thing. Like Caine's literally said before on set, you've got 2 takes at this, get it in 2 takes and I'm fucking up. Like and that to me, I'm like, okay, but then don't call yourself an actor. What you are is a spoiled child. You know what I mean? Like come to work to do your job. And it upsets me no end when people don't. So I blame the actor. If you have another thesis, please.
I do not. That sounds good to me, mate.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry, I rambled on a bit there, but okay. We've got some quick fire John Wallace questions.
Okay, quick fire.
Was 70s US cinema the greatest artistically? I kind of think it wins from Jack Nicholson's 70s output alone, but what does the diner think?
I don't know. I guess probably, but
in terms of artistic, though, it's either between that and the 40s, right? Like the film noir of the 40s or whatever, or the.
I think probably yes, it is, because at least in terms of people being able to simultaneously experiment and use the best talent and money available to explore interesting ideas using film as like a storytelling medium, feels like they had the most freedom and the and the freshest ground to explore. So yeah, I'd probably say the 70s. I think
it's either that or, and this is not a favorite era of mine, but it certainly is massively artistic, and that is sort of the big MGM musicals of the 50s. Is another era where cinema went from telling small intimate stories to sort of these massive artistic expressions.
I think John's right. I'd probably go with the 70s.
Because for us.
I think that maybe then, if the key word is artistic, then yes, 70s.
What is the greatest claustrophobic film ever? Isn't it that one where Ryan Reynolds is buried alive or whatever that movie is? I've not seen it.
No, but I think what we're talking about, like The Thing, is pretty claustrophobic. Evil Dead 2 is pretty claustrophobic.
I'd say Evil Dead 1 is slightly more claustrophobic just because it's
a claustrophobic one.
Isn't there one though where Ryan Reynolds is buried alive and it's all just him being buried or whatever? I think it's called Buried.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
That'll do. I'm sorry, John. We're Jim is yawning massively, so I'm trying to race through this.
I'm tired. No, it's a good question though.
It is. No, these are all great questions. I just don't know that I have an encyclopedic knowledge of claustrophobic films.
We'd have to have a claustrophobic knowledge. Trying to remember some movies that were a bit claustrophobic.
I don't like any underwater movies because twofold. A, because you're normally in one place for the whole movie, and secondly because everything underwater moves incredibly slowly. Like the moment the moment they learned in James Bond films that they could film underwater, there's then these interminably long underwater sequences with like lush music over them, and I'm just always sat there being like, get on with it, where's a car chase? Not so much claustrophobic.
Sorry, Das Boot could be a good one.
Yeah, Das Boot.
That's a good one. Can't be a good submarine movie, and that's probably the best. Definitely.
Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, but that's like he's like moving around. He jumps like Das Boot, like they are stuck in the submarine. They can't get out.
Yeah.
Das Boot, then. I'm going to go with Das Boot.
And isn't there that movie Cube where they all just like move from...
Like, when I talk, do the words like reach your ears, or do they have to go through another filter system? And this is a filter system.
When did you say Cube?
Like 10 minutes ago. I said Cube, that's a good one. You're like, well, claustrophobic, I don't remember. And I was trying to go, yeah, but Cube's a good one. It's fine. I think it made it through. Do you know what I mean? It just like, it took a while. It got stuck in customs. It got stuck in your brain's customs, and now it's come through. And for some reason, the movie Cube is coming to me from somewhere. What about Cube? Yeah, Cube. Let's go with Cube then.
Oh, Day of the Dead is a very claustrophobic movie.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Yeah, let's go Day of the Dead. Yeah, Day of the Dead. Good call.
All right, John Wallace.
What it is.
John Wallace's next question is: with fewer studios taking fewer risks with fewer studios taking fewer risks, is Hollywood on the way out? And if so, how long will it linger on?
I don't know that that's true. I think that there's a weird, like we're seeing it now, where we're seeing less lame attempts at franchise movies and more like slightly odd, peculiar movies. I think that the fact that Disney own like 50% of, or isn't it like 8 out of the 10 or 9 out of the 10 top grossing movies of all time?
And now Disney,
is a problem. And certainly Disney do not take risks. And the movies that they
I don't know about that though. You look at some of the Marvel movies and some of the directors that they've got to
like Disney
direct the Marvel movies.
The good Marvel movies and the good Pixar movies. I mean, first of all, Marvel movies are entirely risk-free. They're very well put together, but they know exactly what they're doing. They know what their formula is. But there's a few missteps, but generally speaking, like they know what they're doing. But also Disney leave it alone. When they get involved with something like, say, like the Pixar movies, like with Toy Story 4. Like Toy Story 4 should never have been made and wouldn't have been made if Disney hadn't pushed for it. And it's garbage.
No, I get that. But I also think that what's happening is, you're seeing this situation, especially with someone like Taika Waititi recently, but where, he can make a Thor movie and then he can make like a Jojo Rabbit or whatever. And
yeah, I agree. I think that the idea of like the big studios, I think Knives Out is a straight, like, for Knives Out to get like that big a release, and for everyone involved to have that much creative freedom. I think there's definitely a thing where there might be a new deal where it's like, okay, you get to, you know, if you helm our Marvel movie, then you get to go and make, you know, one small weird movie of your own with as much money as you can fucking eat.
Right, because
I'm happy with that. I don't mind if the ratio is going to be one really well-made blockbuster that I'll enjoy watching, you know, on an airplane, versus like one really great movie, you know, that makes me think, makes me laugh. It's just a great, well put together movie. You know, every year from like a number of like from 10 or 12 directors, then like that'll fucking do me.
Well, we'll get onto this a little bit because we've got that question about streaming replacing Hollywood for the moment while we're in quarantine. But I actually am very hopeful right now about movies in general. I mean, certainly this summer is going to take a massive knock, and we'll have to see what happens there. But I actually don't mind this idea of cinemas being for tentpole movies, and then the directors of those tentpole movies get to do a Knives Out or a Jojo Rabbit, which will also get like a, you know, a lower run, you know, screen 7 in a multiplex rather than screen 1, 2, or 3.
You and I talked about this before, how we've noticed that what happens is you have like the big movie that week, you know, the big Marvel movie that week, and then the other big, you know, movie that's been out for 2 weeks. And then you'll have like on screen 4 or 5, like, you know, a strange little indie movie that they need to fill the cinema with something. And this is supposed to be pretty good. And then people actually watch it too, because the Marvel movies are in the cinema for so long that, and if you go to the movies like just 2 or 3 times a month, then you're going to eventually want to see something that isn't whatever that month's big movie is. And you'll go and you'll try something out, which means they're more willing to put those movies in the cinema, which is why you and I have been able to see.
Yeah, I had a debate with someone. I had a debate with someone recently online on one of these articles about studios moving over to streaming during this quarantine situation, and you know, one of the things this guy was saying is like, this is going to be massively detrimental because Hollywood doesn't like make good movies anymore, and they only make these big tentpoles, and once people feel like they can just watch them at home, they're not going to want to go to theaters and da-da-da-da-da, which I don't think actually holds up as an argument at all. But also he said, like, Hollywood doesn't make the and this has been an argument for fucking 20 years, long before streaming, but they're like, Hollywood doesn't make the like $40 to $60 million picture anymore. They either make a $10 million picture or a $200 million picture. And I'm like, right, but that's where stuff like Amazon Prime and Netflix has swooped in and gone, well, we'll make the $50 million picture then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And actually what I like about the situation right now is, in terms of new movies, I can get what I want where I want. So I can get the, you know, slightly quirky indie talky horror thriller movie on streaming. I can get the big, you know, whiz bangery in a cinema with reclining seats and, you know, wall-to-wall speakers and 3D and all the bells and whistles I can, you know, cough at. And, you know, and then I can get TV shows that look like fucking movies and are made really well and written really well and scripted really well, and I can stream those or whatever.
Yeah, and when you watch the director's cut of Apocalypse Now, it almost feels like a TV series that's been strung together. Like there's even like episodic moments throughout that.
I think weirdly enough, the one point I would make about everything right now, I actually have a lot of hope in new movies. My biggest problem right now is that in the vaults of the 3 or 4 biggest studios is a back catalogue of great films that, aside from the odd one that squeaks out on one of these Blu-ray boutique labels like Shout Factory or whatever, that they managed to have got their hands on, are currently being withdrawn from streaming. So something like a Filmstruck or a Warner Archive or one of those platforms that have gone away because AT&T bought Warner. That's what I'm more worried about. I'm less worried about, like, will cinema survive, will Hollywood survive, whatever. My feeling is that it will. my biggest worry is not about new films; it's about older films, and the fact that outside of either classic titles like When Harry Met Sally or Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which Shout Factory is putting out, or the John Carpenter collection, which Scream Factory is putting out, or the Lucio Fulci collection, which Blue Underground is putting out, outside of those like niche boutique things, you're not getting just the sways and sways and sways of back cat stuff that I would love to stream. And seems to me what streaming is made for. I mean, I love all this new stuff that streaming's doing, but like streaming for me is entirely made to replace the video store where I could go in and get a movie from 1920 and a movie from 1980 and a movie from 1990. Like that's what I want from streaming, and I'm not finding that. Yes.
But I think on the point of the VOD thing though, to like pushed it across to actually one of the other questions we got asked, that two of the best movies or the most fun movies that were like very unexpected that I saw in the last couple of weeks were, one was on Netflix called Sweetheart, which was just like, it was a new little thriller movie on Netflix, which was really, really good. And the one which, when we were talking about doing this podcast, the one I was going to suggest was one called Body at Brighton Rock on Hulu, which I thought you would really, really like. It's like a really small indie little horror film. It's kind of like a cross between a John Hughes movie.
Wait, is this a remake of
Picnic at Hanging Rock?
That sounds like a mashup of Brighton Beach House, Picnic at Hanging Rock, and isn't there another one?
It's a mashup of a movie, but it was really fun. It's about like a teenager, young woman, I suppose, who works as like a guide in a forest trail, and she gets lost and comes across a body, and because she's lost and it's sort of a crime scene, she has to stay there overnight to kind of like mark the scene and protect the crime scene, even though it's like, she's in the middle of these like huge woods and totally lost and no one's coming to get her. And it's like a kind of a fun horror suspense, fun little movie. I really enjoyed it. And it was obviously made for like a packet of beans, but it was so well put together, and it's on Hulu, and I can highly recommend it. But that's the kind of thing that's what's cool about streaming. And the Sweetheart movie that was mentioned on Facebook is the same. It was obviously very small and low budget, but really well done and really well put together and really tense and cool, and just like, this is great. Like this is what movie. If that's the future of movies, it was like, we don't need much. We've got $2 million and we're going to put together a really good, thrilling, fun movie. Then everything's cool. Everything's cool.
So Kiva Champagne or Kiva Ashby Nee Champagne, a good friend of mine, was the one who asked, should the movie Sweetheart be considered horror? Because she thinks it's more suspense. But I think suspense is sort of an offshoot of horror anyway, isn't it? Well,
I guess the argument is, I think it's horror, but only because I don't know whether it like counts as spoilers or not. It kind of does.
Yeah, don't tell me then. Don't tell me.
Then I won't. But it's kind of a horror based on what she's dealing with, but the mood of the film is suspense. Okay. But I really, really enjoyed it. I could definitely recommend it.
I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive either.
I can see what she means. I do see what she means.
I'd have to watch it.
Mostly the enjoyment of the film comes through suspense rather than horror. And rather than being horrified,
right?
It's mostly about the suspense of it. So yeah.
John's last question, which was another interesting one on Twitter. You are forced to spend this entire epidemic learning another language by watching its cinema. Which do you pick?
France.
You've always had a soft spot for
I've always had a soft spot for French movies. Plus, I feel like I've got like a small handle. I don't think. I feel like if I was going to
Jim Wallace has a small handle.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was going to start, because initially I was like maybe Japan or something that's got like a rich cinematic history that and a language I'm totally in. But no, I just like end up being really depressed. I couldn't figure out what I was saying. But France, I've got like enough that I wouldn't get like bummed out by not understanding. And sometimes I watch French movies and I notice the bad translations, like on the subtitles. I notice like, wait, they've ruined the joke. You know what I mean? Like I can see they've ruined the joke. The example I keep saying is in Amelie, where somebody asks her if she wants to have a drink, and the subtitles, when she replies, the subtitles say I'm busy, but what she actually says is je suis travail, right, which is I'm working, right, which is more accurate because she's doing a thing where she's going around doing that like kind thing of helping people out. So there's that going on, like that's her work now. But also the idea of like, no, I'm afraid I have to turn your drink down because I'm working. I'm busy says, I don't want to drink with you. I'm not interested, right? But I'm working says, obviously, I'd like to have a drink with you. That would be great. I'm a polite, nice person, but I'm in the middle of working and I couldn't possibly drink while I'm working. So it's a whole different thing, and it's a joke, and it's funny, and it's sweet, rather than like a throwaway, like, oh, I'm busy. I've got no time for you because I'm a hot French lady. You know what I mean?
My answer would be China/Hong Kong. My answer would be I would, if all I had was a certain country's movies to delve into, I would start with the Hong Kong action cinema.
Yeah, but no subtitles. You have to learn the language using that.
No, he doesn't state that. He says you are forced to spend the entire epidemic learning another language by watching at cinema. He doesn't say no subtitles. I would assume in order to learn the language, I would have to listen to it and see.
I'm still saying French, but yeah, okay. So I see why Hong Kong. Yeah, but okay. Do you feel like there's a great... Because what I like about French cinema is there's a lot of different kinds. I mean, obviously, they're all incredibly French, but there's action films, romance films, thrillers,
yeah, but horror. I'm not interested in that. I just want to watch
I'm just saying, there's lots
action.
of genres. There's lots of types of movies, right? If you're locked up and you're only watching Hong Kong films, I don't know how much of a breadth of genre you're necessarily getting with that. Not that I'm doing down Hong Kong cinema here, but...
No, I feel
like it would mostly be action movies. Am I wrong?
No, I mean, there's gangster films, there's romance.
Which feels like an offshoot of action.
No, there's romance films. There's like cop dramas.
Yeah, but again, I feel like this is much of an action umbrella here.
Yeah. What there isn't, weirdly, is there isn't a lot of horror. Japan tends to make the horror, and China tends to make the action. I mean, that's a very narrow...
Japanese. That's what I'm saying. They're Japanese action films. There's Yakuza movies, right?
Right, yeah.
But you've also got horror and probably like really weird shit as well. That's why Japan might be my second choice, because again, I feel like there's a breadth of very weird content, and because I really like there's a lot of Japanese things that are deeply weird and I'm not very fond of at all. But I do really love Cowboy Bebop. You know what I mean? And Steins Gate and things like that. So there might be something there.
Okay, fair enough. So I feel like we've answered John's questions.
Yeah.
Michael Allen Fitzgerald did comment on Kiva's post and say that Sweetheart is currently playing on Netflix. Considering the element of the main protagonist, I consider it to be horror.
Yeah.
Dino Peppers, who might be on one of these episodes coming up soon, asks, how long till we get a big name film about the current pandemic, and will Tom Hanks play himself? Which I think is an absolutely phenomenally great question.
I think, yes. Can I be honest? Really what I'm looking forward to in about 10 years, which is about how long I'll be able to look back on it. But there will obviously be a spate of Trump movies in about 10 years. And the one I'm looking forward to is, you remember there was that one where there was that big snowstorm and there was a government shutdown and he was like trapped in the White House in the middle of a snowstorm on his own?
Yeah.
There's going to be a movie about that starring, in my opinion, Oliver Platt, and it's going to be a corker. So that's the movie I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah, I want you to write that movie.
That'd be a great movie, though. Oliver Platt as Trump, alone in a snowbound White House.
Well, how about
eating
this?
Like cold burgers left over from
this?
Now, team that rejected him.
Now, yeah, it would be amazing. But now, obviously, we could be sat here one more week and then we could all be back to work, or it could be months and months and months. However,
I'm pretty sure it's going to be option number 2, mate. Just FYI.
But if it is months and months and months, and I'm serious about this.
Yeah.
Considering most of our communication would be done via Skype, and considering whatever, you could make an indie movie like right now, because you wouldn't need with the current
that's
situation.
Interesting. Yeah, you could have like people filming in their own apartments, right? And then you could have somebody like send the files to somebody and have them edit it all together. Look, can we just be honest? Soderbergh is making that film right now. Like, it's already happening, right? Bleedy and fucking Pitt and all the rest of them are all shooting their own stuff for Soderbergh.
But I'm not interested in millionaires in mansions. What I think would be, and I'm not even talking like a kind of Rear Window ripoff or even a horror, like I'm stuck in my own apartment and I go crazy kind of film. I'm talking about an early 90s style indie comedy, Kevin Smith or Linklater. Yeah, like a kind of early 90s Linklater, Tarantino, Kevin Smith kind of era movie, where it's all about characters and talking and whatever.
Right.
Sorry?
Like a diner kind of a movie.
Like a diner kind of a movie, but set in this current scenario where you could literally have like someone in China, someone in Italy, someone in England, someone in whatever, if you knew all those people, and give them a short script and give them whatever. You could make like a real, like Jarmusch could, if Jarmusch wasn't so far up his own
Jarmusch wasn't a fucking arse,
but
talentless, soulless,
right, I shouldn't have said
brainless fool.
I shouldn't have said the word Jarmusch. It's like, there's two there. What's the monk guy?
Xiao guaranteed Xiao Hu's been in a Jarmusch picture. There's no way those two cunts haven't got together.
Xiao Hu's really good in Maisel, Mrs. Maisel. I don't think you're giving him enough credit.
I don't really.
And he's really good in Galaxy Quest as well. What is your big?
He's not good in Galaxy Quest. He's in Galaxy Quest, which is a good movie,
right?
But also he's playing against type. He's just being a bloke. He's not. He's not doing his usual Xiao Hu fucking nonsense.
Okay. All right. Michael Fitzgerald.
I don't even hate Xiao Hu. I just don't fucking get it.
Yeah, no, he's just a trigger word for you.
I just don't get it.
Most people are triggered by horrific things in your life.
I get why people like Jarmusch, even though he's a shallow idiot. I get why people like McFarlane, even though he's like a soulless rip-off artist. But I just don't get Xiao Hu. I just don't get it. Like, who looks at Xiao Hu and go, that's it, that's the answer to my fucking burning artistic question? Tony Xiao Hu.
Michael Fitzgerald adds, do you think that there will be an audience for a film based on our current situation, as that in some ways we are all living through it? I personally doubt that I'm going to be interested in revisiting this time once it passes, but like with any good film, it will depend on the story being told. I think there's two ways to do it. Either like I say, you involve enough people and give enough different perspectives and make it funny and weird enough that you could watch it literally at any time and it be about any kind of scenario like this. Or you do what you're suggesting and you pinpoint one unique scenario, such as Trump trapped in the White House by himself in a snowstorm. Like, I would be really interested in that.
Yeah, I think there's likely to be a whole, depending on how long it goes on for, but especially since I feel like what's been happening with you, people are trapped and they want to express themselves. And if they're filmmakers, they'll probably, like you're saying, they'll make something now. They'll see it as, a challenge of restraint. And everybody knows lots of people these days, and everyone is so interconnected that you could, call up a musician friend or, an acting friend or whatever and put together like a bunch of you putting something together. So I think actually movies will be made, like maybe interesting things could be made while this is happening right now.
And I don't think it would even have to be, it wouldn't even have to be a movie where you're like, I am trapped in my apartment because
it could be. It could just
scenario.
Be like, that it was made then, but it could be as interesting. Like, there are plenty of things like guy waiting in hotel room for message or whatever. Like there's plenty of plays that take place set in one room. Right. You know what I mean? Where you can, you only need like one person. There's plenty of plays like that. could be something like that.
So Paul Bianco asks, because Hollywood has obviously run out of ideas, again, we're not 100% sure that they have, but okay, well, let's go with the thesis. Should they remake all the rubbish movies of all genres and bring back some styles like film noir, for example? Okay, so there seems to be like lots in that question. First of all, I don't think they need to remake anything. I don't mind them.
I disagree. I do like the idea of going back and going, this is a shit film with a brilliant idea, because there's plenty of films that are shit, but with a brilliant idea that could be remade, and I'd be down for that. Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, classic example.
I thought when you were like Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, I thought you were going to be like, they go down to the wreckage of the original Poseidon Adventure, bring it up to the top of the ocean, and then it sinks again with all of the... like the wreckage sinks twice, but no.
So that would be the Poseidon Adventure 2. Jesus, is it happening again or something? But the idea of like two salvage teams going down and like bucking around in an already sunken ship, that's a brilliant idea for a movie, and it was rubbish.
Yeah,
so and the thing is, I think he's right. I think there's like miles and miles of movies that had really great ideas and terrible executions. So I've got no problem with if there's a production house that specifically pops up to remake movies that were crappy but could have been great.
But no, you see, this is my thing. Is there's one thing mining the weirder corners of Batcat Hollywood for good ideas and rubbish films and making new films out of them. That I'm kind of...
Well, that's what he's saying.
Yeah,
that's what he's saying.
I don't... Like, a remake to me is something different than that. Like, it's not...
Well, that's what... But it's not. Like, he's specifically saying, you go find a film that was a good idea but rubbish execution and remake it. Thereby making it better.
Right, but I'm not... And I'm not down for
remake
that.
is such a trigger word for you, that what remake means is rage and righteous indignation, which I get, and that's totally cool. But that's not necessarily what a remake is. What are you doing the thing with the hands for?
No, because I want to get this out before I die.
Okay.
My biggest problem with most remakes, or even going back and idea mining, is that most of the time, whatever the idea was that was good, that came through the movie, even if the movie was...
What?
Jim is just making silly faces at me now.
I'm sorry. You crack on. You crack on. How do you feel about remakes?
It's not about remakes. You actually listen to what I'm saying.
Right.
So when you watch a bad movie, or a movie that is considered by the mass populace to be bad or rubbish or whatever, but there's an idea in it that is like a good idea that they're exploring, and maybe they didn't pull it off because of budgetary reasons, they didn't pull it off because the script wasn't good enough or whatever, but there's a good nugget of an idea. When you just flat out remake that, the problem with most remakes is, even if they come from an initially questionable film, is whatever that original idea was that's coming through that movie, it's still being translated through that original movie, even if that movie is bad. Most remakes take those ideas and they don't understand. It's not enough to just kind of go, well, this seems like a good idea. And the best example I have for this is Sundown: A Vampire in Retreat. Sundown: A Vampire in Retreat is essentially a movie about lots of vampires who live in a desert, who wear big hats and sunscreen and whatever. And half the vampires are trying to synthesize blood so that they can live relatively normal existences out in this wilderness by themselves and have a life. And the other vampires are like, no, I want to go back to being vampire. Like, I want to go back to being blood-sucking, violent creatures of the night. And a family come into town is a scientist who's going to help synthesize this blood and so on and so forth, right? And there's loads of ideas in that come out and whatever.
Does it matter that sounds like a terrible, terrible movie?
No, but there's ideas in there that
I know that, but listen. All right, but
okay.
Ideas is not the same as a good... All right, okay, all right. But you're using this as an example of a movie that can't be remade but it's like a rubbish idea for a movie. All right, I'm getting the hands, to hands me.
So about 25 years later, a series of books and then a TV show called True Blood is written, right?
Also rubbish.
But essentially takes the...
Right.
It takes the idea of synthesizing blood and some vampires wanting to be good and live amongst the normies and other vampires, whatever, blah, 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 right? And it updates it. And yes, it was not everyone's cup of tea, and it was HBO, so there had to be lots of tits and horrible sexual humor in it, which didn't come across and whatever. But essentially that's a scenario where, and I don't know whether they've seen Sundown and ripped it off wholeheartedly or whether it's just an idea that's obvious enough to be done twice. But either way, True Blood changed the idea enough and changed the scenario enough and gave it a new title and did its own thing and set it in its own place and whatever, enough that True Blood, even though it has a lot of the same story elements, don't feel like a remake in the same way that Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder version, and Dawn of the Dead, the original, that's a remake. Because Zack Snyder's gone, yeah, I like George Romero's film, but what about the zombies being fast? And what if we also have like a baby?
Well, I understand what you're saying. But you're talking about you're talking about two different things.
So what I'm saying is, I am all for. There's only a handful of stories in the world anyway. I'm all for getting ideas and taking stories and germs of ideas and whatever it is and making new things out of them, because essentially that's what all creative people do. Every musician listened to a previous musician and went, I want to do it like that, but my way. It's like that's right,
but you're talking about, but you're not directly addressing what I'm saying. Like I understand what you're drawing a distinction between,
and I'm
but wait. I'm going to give you the hands. I'm giving you the hands. You get the hands now. Okay. So, on the one hand, what you're saying is, well, there's a difference between an idea, like the germ of a good idea, in a thing that's long gone by, and then updating that in a modern way and coming up with a fresh, perspective on it, or whatever. In the case of True Blood. Which I get what you're saying. And that's a different thing from a remake where you take a movie that was successful, right, like Dawn of the Dead or The Thing or whatever, and therefore has like this cultural flipping currency or whatever, that if you remake it, it already has like brand identity or whatever. People go, oh yeah, I know what that thing is. I've heard of that. I'll maybe pay money to see that, right? So you're not just like a movie lost in the, sea of fucking movies, right? And you're saying one thing is not like the other, and therefore if you want to do the first thing, that's cool, but the second thing I'm against, which is totally fine. I'm not disagreeing with either of those things, but I think your man, whatever his name is, which I've forgotten, I apologize, your man is Paul Bianco is saying there is a third category of things that you are not talking about, which is movies that were not good. They were not good movies. They don't have brand recognition. They don't have they're best left alone to be like the thing that they were always meant to be. And they're not they had the germ of a good idea that if you, manipulate it or put it in a different setting, it becomes something else. I'm saying there's a whole raft of movies that are just shit films because the director was an asshole or the actor was pissed or, couldn't be bothered or, they ran out of money halfway through, or the producers came in and butchered the ending, or whatever. But it's just it's a shit film, and everybody hates it. But right at the beginning of that process, before the drunk actor turned up, or the jobbing director, or the arsehole producer, before they got their mitts on it, the reason that they were all gathered together and money was thrown at the project because at the beginning there was a good idea, and that's why they wanted to make it. The process after that turned into nothing but a puddle of shit that everybody would rather forget about. Those movies, of which there are probably hundreds of thousands, should be remade or could be remade. And I'd be well on board with that because there is a chance to go back and take that idea and make it the thing that it was meant to be. Not adapt it or update it or put it in a different context, but just simply remake the movie as it was meant to be made. That's as a third category of things. That's a remake, and I'm on board with that. I'm not on board with remaking films that were good and should just be left alone. That's fine. I get why they do it, but I don't. They shouldn't. They should just fucking leave them be. And I'm with you on that. I agree with you on both counts. I'm just saying there's a third thing in the middle.
I would have to have an example of one of these like bad movies. I mean,
Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
You keep saying that, and I'm telling you right now.
But it's a good look.
But I'm telling you right now. Nobody gives a shit about Beyond.
No. Listen, they've remade the Poseidon Adventure on many occasions, right? I'm not saying you call it even Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, or you could. They made the Poseidon Adventure. I'm saying the idea of a movie where there's a sunken boat on the bottom of the ocean, where and it was like a big disaster or whatever, and two salvage crews have to go in to the shipwreck, and while it's still collapsing on the ocean floor, get in there and get their loot and get out again, while at the same time squabbling amongst themselves, squabbling amongst the two teams. Whatever.
I don't want to watch that.
Idea for a movie, and they wanted to make that movie.
No, I want to watch the Trump stuck in the White House snowstorm,
which is fine. But that's a new idea. I
don't want to watch.
Regardless of whether you want to watch it or not, I don't care. I want to watch the Beyond the. I'm saying I badly want to watch the Beyond the Poseidon Adventure made properly. That's what I'm saying.
And right now, If someone wants to make a people bicker while salvaging a wreckage movie, go right ahead. Does it need to be Beyond the Poseidon Adventure? No.
No, I'm not saying it needs to be Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. I'm saying there is a movie that has a great idea that you could remake. Because it was never made properly in the first place.
What you're saying is...
It's a remake. It's a remake. How is it not a remake? You're bonkers, mate.
Because you're saying you want to see a film in which people go and salvage a wreckage, right?
Right.
That's not even a full elevator pitch. That's like the beginning sentence of an elevator pitch. And if you're saying that the beginning sentence of an elevator pitch makes it a remake simply by default, then that's like saying, hang on a second. That's like saying every single movie that came out after Die Hard that had terrorists taking over either a building, a plane, a ship, a shopping mall, or whatever was a Die Hard remake.
No, I don't see what I understand what you're saying, but I don't know why. I don't understand why what I'm saying isn't a remake. I'm saying there's a film called Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. Right?
I wish you'd never watched.
And I want to remake that movie, regardless of your elevator pitch thing, which I get. But I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I've got an elevator pitch. I'm saying that's what I like about it.
Nobody cares about it.
I want to remake Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
Shut up.
The end.
Beyond the Poseidon.
No, because you want to put me in a box, mate. You want to put me in your cross-made box. Well, that's not a remake, and you're just wrong. So let's move on.
I think we should leave Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. I want to leave that movie buried at the bottom. I want the movie to be about people salvaging Beyond the Poseidon Adventure from a locker in a ship at the bottom of the ocean.
That's fine. I mean, it's a bit like early 2000s postmodern, but that's fine. You can make that movie if you want. It'd be a John Jarmusch movie, but if you want to be in it, mate, that's fine with me. You and Forrest Whitaker.
Should Hollywood remake rubbish movie? No. And
yes.
No, they shouldn't.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Should Hollywood bring back some styles like film noir? Yes. Should they remake rubbish movies? No, because rubbish in whose estimation?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Because all stories are, by your definition, all stories are remakes of other stories. So it's a moot point by your definition. By my definition, it's not at all.
That is logically inept.
Anyway, it doesn't.
It's inept logic.
Doesn't matter.
Put the words together.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, next question, because I'm about to shoot myself.
Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
I'm going to go lick a bathroom wall so I get coronavirus at this point. Dino Peppers says...
Do you know how you get Poseidon Adventure? I don't think it's from licking bathroom walls.
Do I know how I get Poseidon Adventure is what you just said. You literally just said. If you want to
Poseidon Adventure.
If you want to hear what people going insane sounds like,
I'm going to get a t-shirt that says, I want to remake Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. And then you cannot ever argue me around, well, it's not really a remake, is it? It is, because it's on my fucking t-shirt what I want to do. Right. I want to remake Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. I'm getting that t-shirt, mate. That's what I want for my birthday.
All right. Dino Peppers asks, which actors have made a career out of playing one character and which films broke the mold? Example, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Only time I've seen him do something totally different was Faster. So which actors have made a career out of playing one character and then do something that broke the mold?
I know most of them. I mean, honestly, I'm not being facetious, really, but most of them, other than even Robert De Niro is what a great character actor. He's just being Robert De Niro in different hats. It's the same. They find their niche, right? And they stick at it. And then at the point where they're like, nobody wants your niche anymore. Get out of here, De Niro. He's like, no, wait, because in this one, I play like a mad wizard with a bird on his head or whatever. And they're like, oh, you've changed our perception of what acting is, De Niro, with your wizard, with your bird-hatted wizard. Come back into Hollywood. Robin Williams in a serious role. It's like, yeah, whatever. I get it, but most of them do that.
Here's a good example. You've gone into the territory where you've gone wild. You've gone rogue, Jim, and I'm not sure I like it.
But name an actor that doesn't do that. Name an actor that hasn't found a niche and then at some point, for the purposes of remaining relevant and to put more money in their wallets, gone, oh no, I'm going to do something totally wacky. Name one.
What? Name an actor that
doesn't play the same character over and over again.
Michael Caine is a good example.
What are you talking? Well, other than Without a Clue, no, he's still Michael Caine.
No, he's not. No. Hang on a second.
All right.
Hang on a second. There are definitely films, certainly in the second half of his career.
Shades of Caine. I'll agree with you. There's shades of Caine.
Hang on. There are definitely films in the second half of his career where he's just playing Michael Caine.
Right.
Agreed. And there's definitely bad movies in Michael Caine's career where he's shown up and not even been bothered to be Michael Caine.
I like that we started for some reason with Michael Caine and now we're ending with Michael Caine.
Oh, we're not ended yet, sadly. But
I think we probably should though. It's on the 2 hour mark.
We have more questions. I just want to get past this.
I know. I was trying to wrap it up neatly, mate. With my natural podcasting instincts.
Shut up would be great. No.
Have I mentioned that I want to remake Beyond the Abyss?
Yeah, you have to the point where I want to chew my own foot off. When you look at something like Zulu, The Man Who Would Be King, Get Carter, Ipcris File, Without a Clue, you start reeling off Caine's well-known roles. He's not Michael Caine in all of them. He's very different in all of them. And I think that goes for... I actually disagree with what you said. I think that goes for most actors. I think most actors there is a period in their career where they are doing lots of different things. Even someone like Pacino, who got, after Heat and Scent of a Woman, got saddled with being shouty Pacino. When you go back to, Dog Day Afternoon and Serpico and Cruising and films like that, there's a broad range to Pacino. So I would actually argue that it's more recent, when you look at someone like a Brad Pitt or a George Clooney or, any of those, even a Matt Damon or a Ben Affleck, I would say they're all the same. I wouldn't say that they stretch themselves at all. The one example I would have that would play into this question would be something like Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys, which interestingly comes very early in his career. Since then, Brad Pitt hasn't really taken any chances whatsoever. He's Brad Pitt in everything, whether he's Brad Pitt in space or Brad Pitt hosting a casino or Brad Pitt whatever. And Clooney, as much as I love Clooney, and I love Clooney, outside of Dusk Till Dawn, which is barely a stretch as it is, Clooney is Clooney. Even in stuff like, Oh
No, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Good Night and Good Luck. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Yeah, I would argue that him with the Coen brothers has given him some range. Someone weirdly who I would say doesn't have much of a range, but I love him in everything, is someone like a Jeff Bridges. I don't think Jeff Bridges has a huge amount of range. I think on one end you have him in The Fisher King, and on the other end you have him in The Big Lebowski, and everything else he's done is sort of somewhere between those 2 points. It's either him slightly more manic or him slightly more stoned, and then everything else kind of...
No, you're right. You're right. I was being a facetious idiot, not for the first time.
No, but I know what he means. I
know what he means too. I just don't think it's... even my point, actually, what I mean is, I think people find whatever... Like I was saying about Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones and Han Solo and the bloke from The Fugitive, they're all like different characters. But I think, he's not a great example, but I think what I'm saying is that I think the good actors, even the ones that play lots of different characters, find the thing about themselves that is what makes them a compelling screen presence. Like, I know what you're saying about Michael Caine, but the guy in Zulu and the guy in Man Who Would Be King and the guy in Get Carter.
Oh, that's a different point.
What makes them magnetic is like a particular quality. And I don't mean that it's like, oh, it's this undefinable thing. Like, I think it is like a character trait of, in the case of Michael Caine, a kind of like, it's almost like a stiff upper lippedness, right? Even in Ipcress File or Man Who Would Be King, whatever, there's something about like doing your best to remain unruffled no matter what's happening. Even in Hannah and Assistants, right? And you can mess about with that more, and you can have it be like he's more ruffled or whatever. But it's like knowing your strength and playing to that and putting that strength into different characters and making those characters compelling. That's, I guess, a more accurate.
But that's a different point.
Rather than being the facetious idiot I was before, for which I apologise.
Right, but
I would like to remake Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. That's not being facetious. That's passion.
That's a slightly different point than what Dino is saying. But I
know I was being a facetious idiot.
I also actually think that Caine's defining trait is not stiff upper lippedness. I think Caine's defining trait is a mild rebellion within the stiff upper lip.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. That's a really good point. I like that.
Like in Ipcress File, he doesn't really have a lot of time for the finery, but at the same time loves the finery. Like, it's this weird little, like,
you're right, Man Who Would Be King. He's like that about like the system and their fortunes, and Hannah and her sisters. He's like that about his marriage. Get Carter, he's like that about like the constraints placed upon him by, being a gangster and what he can and can't do. And yeah, that's a very good point.
He's always a guy who is both in the system and rebelling against the system at the same time. That's Caine's
right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so Michael Allen Fitzgerald asks, while I imagine you may not be podcasting from inside diners at this time, I frequently found myself wondering what you guys are tipping. I tend to edit that stuff out at the end of each of the show. We tend to tip 20%. As a rule, sometimes
as a general
more,
rule,
20% less.
Sometimes I wish, sometimes it's less because they're really terrible and rude and kick us out for no good reason, or they bring us cold food, or they ignore us, or they treat us like garbage. In which case, I will give them less because fuck that.
But we often do 25% or slightly.
If we really like them and they're really nice and friendly, we'll give them more. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that most people say it's 20% before tax, right? So most people do the 20% on whatever the food came to. I always do 20% on whatever it comes to with the tax, so it's always slightly more than 20%.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, me too.
But anyway, all right. So Kyle then asks, and this was where we're getting around to this discussion we started earlier. With the theaters shut down, do you think the $20 VOD demand is going to be a new business model? Seems like a good trial run for the studios. Looking forward to this Friday when my house basically becomes a theater. Also, drive-ins don't have this problem. The drive-in will never die. And Michael,
you're never going to get them to pay $20 because people aren't paying $20 to watch the movie. They're paying $20 because they're going to the cinema. It's a night out. It's something to do. It's a big screen. Like there's a certain bargain there. You're not going to get people to pay more than, I don't think, like 5 or 6. Because there's so much stuff on there that you could watch that's free. It's just so much, in the sense that you've already paid your subscription or whatever, or you're borrowing somebody's password. But it has to be, like, I have paid on a number of occasions, like 5 or 6 quid for a new rental if it's something that I really want to see. You know what I mean? Like when that 1917 movie comes out, I really want to see that. I wish I'd seen it on the big screen, but I'll probably pay a $5 if we want to watch something and we're at a bit of a loss.
Yeah, that's slightly different. I mean, Michael also points out that if any VOD model kind of immediately makes it prime for piracy, and so there's a lot to unravel. But I think what you're talking about is more what happens where the movie either goes on rent or goes on sale, right? So the big issue with this one right now is instead of me paying my anywhere from $15 to $25 in a cinema environment, I'm going to pay $20 so I can see the movie in the comfort of my own home because I can't go to a cinema because of reasons.
Right.
I don't think that is either a sustainable model or even one that people are necessarily going to go for during this scenario, because you've got to imagine that during this scenario, all the movies that would normally be coming out to rent or buy digitally that came out in the cinema 2 to 3 months ago that people didn't see, they're just going to be renting and buying those rather than necessarily most of the big ones that people were really excited about, Black Widow, Fast 9, all those ones, are being postponed anyway. It's not like you're going to be able to buy Fast 9 for $20. You're going to have to, and they're not even talking about buying it either. It's talking about like pay 20 and watch it once, which I think is a terrible model. However, I think that what that model does, if it proves to have any legs at all, is pushes it more to the model I would personally like to see, which is this. And forget the current streaming / rental setup. This is slightly different than this. This isn't about borrowing someone's password or renting it for 24 hours or whatever on Apple or on whatever. And we've talked about this when we're like walking to the diner after the movie. The setup I would love to see is that a movie comes out on Friday night or whatever, right? A big movie, whatever movie, doesn't matter. Plays its opening weekend, and then on the Monday is available to buy digitally for $10, $15, whatever, right? The reason why I would like to see that is that the number of movies that I've come out of that I would like to buy this, I would like to own this, I'm really excited by this movie, this is something I want. But by the time I wait 3 or 4 months down the line to get it, I've either lost interest or seen something else or moved on or whatever. There's also movies that come out in the cinema where I'm like, I know I'm not going to get to this movie this week. I would really like to see this movie this week, but I have to be home for whatever reasons, or I have to do whatever reasons. I would love the option to be able to buy that at home because I can't get to the cinema. And I would love to be able to buy it the weekend it comes out, so I'm seeing it with everyone else. And also, lastly, there are movies that come out like Marvel movies or Star Wars movies or water cooler movies, movies that are talked about, that I've no interest in going to the cinema to see, that I've no interest in paying top dollar to see. But if they were available to either rent or purchase that weekend so that I could continue the conversation with all of my friends, I would. So I feel like it's less that I think this VOD on-demand thing, while we're all held up in our homes, while I don't see that being a sustainable model, I would like it to lead more towards this idea of the movie being more readily available on multiple platforms all at once. Like, I remember coming out Birdman, for example, the Michael Keaton movie, and thinking, if I could go into Best Buy right now and buy this on Blu-ray, I would, and I'd take it home right now. There's those movies. There's movies I want to see, but I don't want to pay $20 for, so I'd like to rent for $6.99 or whatever it is. I don't need to own it. I don't need to go to a big cinema to see it. I just want to rent it for $6 and then move on. I think I want to see more. The technology is there. I want to see Hollywood diversify with how it's presenting stuff. And I think this idea of a movie being in the cinema and then waiting 3 months to come out on rental or 3 months to come out on Blu-ray is just an outdated bullshit system. Everything should come out all at once, everywhere. Get rid of regions. Get rid of different countries and different whatever. Everything should just come out all at once, everywhere, and be available for everyone. And that would actually reduce piracy. The few people who have done, I know his name is Mud now, but like Louis C.K. used to say, when he had his own website and made his stand-up specials available for $5, didn't matter where you were in the world, didn't matter whether you were in Australia or whether you were in Hong Kong or whether you were in England or whether you were in America, you could go on his website, pay the equivalent of $5 and watch his stand-up special right there and then. He said more people did that because it was $5, they could get their head around it and they could get what they wanted, than when it used to be put out by like a Netflix or an HBO or something. He would tour Australia or he would tour Europe and they would say, why can't we get your latest special? We've had to pirate it or whatever. So I actually think more of a everything available all at once model is what I would like to see, and I actually think it would cut down on piracy. I think $20 is price gouging, though, and I think that's stupid. We don't even pay $20 very often to go see a movie in New York in the cinema with reclining seats. So why would I pay to watch that at home? That seems to me like price gouging and bullshit.
Fair enough.
All right. Tristan Gnarly Martin asks, I think Daniel Radcliffe has really blossomed since Harry Potter. I enjoyed 2 of his latest flicks this week, Guns Akimbo and Escape from Pretoria. They were really good. Thoughts? Well, I know that he, like Elijah Wood, have gone off and done a bunch of indie movies off the back of once popular franchises. I have seen way more Elijah Wood movies than I have seen Daniel Radcliffe movies. I have not seen, I don't think, any of his. I haven't seen Horns. I haven't seen that one with the dead guy who farts a lot. I haven't seen either of the 2 he mentions. I'm not a big Daniel Radcliffe fan. I'm glad he's going off and doing weird indie stuff. I think people should go off and do weird indie stuff, but I have no opinion. Jim, do you have an opinion?
I do not. I haven't seen him either, but I agree. I have enjoyed the blossoming of Elijah Wood in weird indie films since Lord of the Rings.
But Daniel Radcliffe, I have not gone.
I haven't seen his movies other than The Woman in Black, which was an okay movie, but he wasn't very good at it.
I'm not a fan of his acting. I find him very wooden. So.
No, but But to be fair, he does say has blossomed in these last 2 movies. I haven't seen these last 2 movies, so for all I know, it's fucking you're choking on Blossom when you watch those movies. You know what I mean? But I can't rightly give an opinion because I've not seen him. But if I see him knocking about the place, I will give him a look.
And the last question to wrap up this epic conversation, and I have to say to everyone who put questions forward, this has been tons of fun, and hopefully every time I put a call out for questions during this period, we get this kind of response, because it leads to all sorts of interesting discussions. But Graham Nolan, to wrap us up, to take us home, to send us into the stratosphere, and to hopefully kill me and put Jim to sleep, Graham Nolan asks, would you rather have Twix for fingers or Maltesers for knees?
Well, I think, Jesus. Is it one Malteser per knee, or is it like lots of Maltesers in one knee? Do you know what I mean?
Is it a giant knee-shaped Malteser?
Yeah, no, is it like you've got really small knees that are just like the size of a Malteser and an actual Malteser? Or is it like a bunch of Maltesers rattling around inside a bone-like structure? Because Twix for fingers, well, that's no good because they're just going to, like, you know what I mean, get ground down.
And melt and snap.
Yeah.
So
whereas
this is how
if the
I see the
Maltesers
question.
are encased,
yeah,
then maybe the Maltesers for knees.
Well, this is how... I mean, the answer is Maltesers for knees, but this is my explanation. I think either one, you lose the use of that appendage, right?
Right. You're saying you don't use your knees to masturbate.
Or play guitar, or play piano, or type, or any of the things I do.
As far as, you know what I mean, mate?
What I'm saying
you say play guitar, psychologist says masturbate.
What I'm saying is Malteser for knees, even if it was a big, fat, hefty single Malteser per joint, it's not going to last walking around. Or
no, the other thing is, right? The other thing is you could go to a doctor and go, excuse me, doctor, I appear to have Maltesers for knees. Can I have them replaced with artificial knees? Which the doctor would go, it's a bit pricey, but it can be done.
Right.
But you can't get fingers replaced in any kind of a half-decent way. So definitely Maltesers for knees.
But I think you would wind up either, as you say, replacing them with prosthetic knees or being in a wheelchair.
Right, you do a quick tour, right, of the man with Maltesers for knees to raise funds for your new plastic knees.
Is that what it is? The man with Maltesers for knees?
The man with Maltesers for knees.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine that life, if that was our life right now?
Well, it'd be a bit tough, wouldn't we, to be sitting here, not being able to go out and show our knees off to make the requisite money for the new knees. So, I'd say that'd be pretty tragic.
Yeah. but I feel like I would have to be carried from place to place so that the knees maintained. I feel like if I walked from place to place,
right. So that's also another bonus.
Yeah. Yeah, Maltesers for knees. There we go. We've answered the deepest question we've been given. And Jim, I just want to say thank you very much for giving me this much editing.
Wait, you're just going to edit out my bits, aren't you? It's just going to be one long you talking, and every now and then I'll go, you'll let me in going, what an interesting point. In fact, you want me to get that in now? I'll say it now. Ready? Small pause. What an interesting point you make. Gosh, I've never thought it like that before. Wow, you've really opened up my mind to what can be achieved through the careful study of cinema. Right? So just edit those in and get rid of my bits.
No, what I was going to do was I was just going to do an episode where it's me talking and occasionally you burst in with remake the Beyond Poseidon.
I want to remake Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. I'm going to get that T-shirt made because I am apoplectic with righteous rage that you think I can't do it. That it's not a remake. No, it is.
You can tell that story. But it doesn't have to be.
It is. It's a remake. I want a remake Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. I don't want to take the story and adapt it for new difficult times. I want to remake that movie.
New difficult times. No one said that.
Well, that's what we're living in, right? If you want to set the Beyond the Poseidon Adventure now, you'll be setting it in new difficult times,
and everyone will be swimming 6 feet away from each other.
Right. Exactly. See. Different movie. I don't want to do that. I want to remake Beyond
or
the Poseidon Adventure.
Or you could just watch Leviathan and shut the fuck up.
But that's a different movie. What you've done there is you've confused some words that are similar in the plot description with being the same movie, which it's not. Your trouble is like, well, I've seen a movie set under the water, so I don't need to see any movie set under the water ever again, which I have a few issues with.
I've not said that. That's not what I've said.
You say that to some movies. You're like, well, I don't need to see that movie because I've seen a movie that's a bit similar.
No, what I'm saying is nobody gives two shits about Beyond the Poseidon Adventure apart from you.
Yeah, no, they don't. Evident. That's why it should be remade. That's what I'm saying.
And instead of remaking it,
thank you for making my point.
Instead of remaking
I feel vindicated now.
Instead of remaking it, just watch
editing you in my head now
and shut up.
Because you might be able to edit me on your podcast, but I can edit you in my head now.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, just watch Leviathan and shut up. That's all.
No, but it's a different movie. It's a different movie.
Right, it's a better movie, and just watch.
Okay,
that
I know it's
instead.
a better movie. That's why I want to remake Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. You can't remake a movie set under the water because I've seen a movie that was quite not great but quite good that was also set under the water. No, you can't. You're a lousy producer, which is probably for the best. What are you doing now? Are you worried?
Nope. No, I'm not worried. I'm just waiting.
For what?
I'm just waiting for you to stop. And with that, ladies and gentlemen,
I want to remake.
All right.
Beyond.
It's what's good is I'm glad we've gone long because I feel like I've got my dose of Jim, which is not unlike the coronavirus.
You mean overdose, right? You've got an overdose. You've been like, I really miss you. It's like you were messaging me. I really miss you, man. It'd be really great to hang out. And what's happened is we've hung out for a bit of time, and now you're like, I'm really glad I don't have to do that for a long time now.
Yeah, that's
I really go. I value social isolation. Thank you for reminding me of the benefits of social isolation.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying to me.
Yeah, that's why this.
Well, you are welcome, mate.
An
you are very welcome.
Pleasure. All right, dude. Seriously though, I've had a wonderful night.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
That was grand.
And let's do this again whenever you want.
Yeah, all right. If you think of if one of us thinks of another top 5, or we could do a movie. Whatever you fancy.
Okay.
All right, man.
I like that.
Well, stay safe, all right?
I will do, man. Take care.
Well, thank you ever so much for listening to that. And now coming up, there is a song before we end the show. And this song can be found on the album We're working on it, which is a free miscellaneous plumbing fixtures album that I'm putting up track by track throughout this quarantined situation over on SoundCloud. The link will be in the text of this episode. But basically look for miscellaneous plumbing fixtures on SoundCloud or go to miscplumfix.com. There's also a link on there. That's miscplumbfix.com. Check that out and go over there. There will be a free album which will be uploaded track by track over the next few weeks that I'm stuck at home. Anyway, one of the tracks which I really loved that I recorded recently is going to close out this episode. It's unlike anything I think I've ever written and recorded before, and I hope to continue to experiment and do some mad stuff while we're all trapped inside. Stay well, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe. We're all in this together.
you.